We will just wait 2-3 minutes. I'm on you. I'm not. You can hear me? Yes. Answer the question. Anything you would like to discuss before you go on to the later problem?
Your voice is not clear.
Not clear.
Yeah.
No, sir.
Is it better now?
Yes, sir. It's better now.
Can someone just try speaking? I'm not sure if I'm.
Sir, you are on mute now.
I'm on just a minute. No, I connected from another device. You are able to hear me?
Yes, now it's better.
Now it's
Yeah.
better. Okay. Audio is lagging?
No, sir, it's clear.
Okay. Okay. I think there's some issue with my laptop mic, which is why this problem is happening. So I connected with the phone. Now I think it's fine. Okay. So happy Independence Day to all of you, and thank you for joining on a holiday and for this session. So we'll, straight away start without wasting any more time. Just a minute. Before that, any administrative issues, any technical, so any, logistic, those kind of issues are there, you can just tell me. I'll try to sort those. 1 minute. Okay, I will just share my screen. In this screen, I will show you some of the, questions which are in very random order, but that is the way we'll try to cover it. Okay. Because you can get the questions in any order. Okay. Just let me know once you can see the screen.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll tell you the pattern. And now what is the pattern which we'll be following? And this is generally the pattern which you would have been advised even in your CA final and all those, that don't just try to see the question and see the answer. That will not help you. What you should do is, supposing we are discussing a question, I'll be asking a question, then quickly I'll be asking one of you, or you can volunteer, whoever knows the answer. You will have to speak the answer, and then we'll go to the correct answer. So we'll try to do everything without wasting too much time. But pattern ye hona padega that supposing I'm asking this one question, right? I'm asking this question. So someone from the audience can, whoever feels that they know the answer, you tell me the answer. The others, you can either, write in the chat if that person is saying something wrong, or you can think the answer on your own. Usse kya hoega? You will know that this is the answer which I felt was the answer, and then this is the correct answer. Okay, so that will help you know where you stand, and it will also help you learn better, because only when you know the wrong answer that you had thought was the answer, then you get the right answer. That helps you remember better. This is what I've seen, right? So we'll start. Supposing you want to give the answer, just raise your hand and you can unmute and you can give the answer. Some rules: don't try to give a very, very long answer. Try to keep it short, and that is the way we'll go. Okay, so we'll start. I will not be covering each question that are given in this document. I'll be sharing with you, and you can go through this also. This is there in the question bank also. Here it is little unorganized. In the question bank that you get on the website, it is more organized. But this is, this is the format we have here. Answers are not there here. Answers we will be discussing, and answers also you will get in the question bank. Sometimes it is possible that there could be a few questions which are not possibly covered in the question bank for any reason. Maybe they have been missed or something. So you tell me, I will, get it added, because, any kind of problems, issues, if you're facing, only if you tell me, then I'll know that ये वाला problem हो रहा है, यहाँ पे ये access में issue हो रहा है, जो भी issue हो रहा है. ठीक है, तो whatever issues are there, you keep telling me, either on my phone number. I think all of you would be knowing the phone number. You can send a WhatsApp message or you can send a email. Okay, so let us start. ठीक है, what is negative working capital? Quickly we'll cover all these questions. Just raise your hand and answer it. Okay. Okay, yes, Siddhant, go ahead.
Sir, since working capital is the difference between current assets and current liabilities, negative working capital would mean excess of current liabilities over current assets.
Okay, okay. So whenever current liabilities are more than current assets, you have a negative working capital. Now comes the more difficult question. Is it good or bad?
Can I?
Sure, Vijay, go ahead.
Sir,
So you all do one thing, you just raise your hand and mention. That way multiple people won't talk at once. Okay, Vijay, you can go ahead. See, we'll have to do this quickly, otherwise we won't be able to complete all the questions. Vijay, you are speaking? Who is going ahead? Just raise your hand and do it. Okay, Del, go ahead. What is your name? Just mention your name too.
Yeah, hello. Here negative working capital means like the company is not will not be able to pay its certain obligations out of whatever the current assets they have. That means the negative working capital indicates.
Okay. So it can mean both things. Okay. So you think of examples like usually you are right. Negative working capital is a bad thing, but the purpose of this question is that there are a lot of situations in which negative working capital is a good thing. For
Sir,
example, let's
can
say,
I say, sir?
okay, go ahead.
Sir, negative working capital cannot always be a bad thing, sir. If we have a policy where debtors will pay like in 7 to 10 days, and we have a credit policy where we be paying to our creditors after say a reasonable time later than what we are receiving from debtors, like after 1 month or 15 days. So there is a 7 days we are receiving payment from debtors,
Yes.
and there is actually a time lag, which is not actually a bad thing in
Bad
every
thing.
case.
Can you
Sir,
give
I
an
think,
example also? Any company which is able to do
sir,
this?
Flipkart or Amazon
Flipkart or
kind of.
Amazon, right? So everyone got the answer. Flipkart and Amazon, if you take their example, they will immediately collect from you as soon as you buy on Amazon, but they will be paying the person who is shipping, right? You know how Amazon and Flipkart work, right? They are an aggregator. There is a seller on one side, there's a customer on another side. Customer pays immediately. They pay to the seller after 30 days, so they are able to maintain a negative working capital. This money they will actually invest somewhere. They will invest in their new projects, whatever they want to do. Okay. I will not be repeating the answers. I will be assuming that supposing someone has given the correct answer, I will say that yes, this is the correct answer, and we will be moving ahead. If you stop me and say answer was not clear, then I'll be repeating the answer. Okay. Difference between EBITDA and cash flow from operations. Okay, just follow this pattern, raise your hand, then unmute. Yes, Vijay, go ahead.
Roughly, EBIT TDA is also cash from. It also indicates the cash flow from operations, and
What is the difference? Because these two terms sound similar, they look similar, but they are different in some aspects.
no, I think there is. I don't.
Okay, anyone else, or we'll just go to the answer? Yes, Pradeep.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes.
Hello? Yes, sir. Cash flow from operations means it's the total amount generated through the operating activities, whatever the principal primary revenue generating activities, and the cash flow from that activity is called as a cash flow from operations. And
Okay.
EBITDA means, simply full form means earning before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. It is the total profit available after
What
making
is the
all these.
difference? So you see, you have to be very specific when you're answering, even in an interview. There are some key points of difference. Like if you mention that specific term, then the answer will be clear. Nikhil,
Yes,
you'd like
sir.
to take. Okay,
Yes, sir.
Pradeep,
Cash
you
flow
can
means
continue.
gross amount, and EBITDA means net amount.
No, that is not the answer. Nikhil?
Yeah, so basically EBITDA is basically based on the accrual basis system, while
Right.
the cash flow from operation is based on cash in and cash out. So
Okay, so answer was correct. But to be more specific, the point of difference here in this is the changes in working capital. Okay, so that is the that is the difference. If you look at EBIT, because depreciation is added back here too, depreciation is added back here too. 2 points of difference are there. One is taxes, because here taxes are not being considered, and in cash flow from operations, taxes are being deducted. Here taxes are not being deducted. This EBITDA is based on your accrual basis. This is based on cash basis, which means, and to go more specific into this part, working capital changes are basically so all the working capital changes, they are actually adjusted. You are in your cash flow from operations, but here in EBITDA they are not adjusted directly. Your revenue is being taken. Okay. Next one, goodwill in balance sheet. What does it mean? It's a very simple answer, but not what you what you might obviously think. Okay. Goodwill, what does it mean? Right, Dheeraj, go ahead.
Sir, excess of purchase power over net assets.
Excess
Basically
of
means
purchase consideration over fair value
net
of
assets taken
net
out.
asset. Right. So that is the definition of goodwill. That is what goodwill means. Goodwill does not mean things like reputation, customer, customer acquisition, and all those things which are there in textbooks and all. That is not how goodwill arrives. The goodwill can accounting goodwill can only come in when you are acquiring a company for more than its fair value of net assets. Then only this difference between your these purchase consideration and fair value of assets will become your goodwill. Is too much goodwill a bad thing? Again, so supposing if you have too much goodwill, if you have paid a lot for your for acquiring a company, then you will have a lot of goodwill on your balance sheet, which may or may not be a bad thing depending on the situation. So you will have to see that which company has been acquired and how much has been paid for it. Supposing if the acquisition is justified, then this goodwill is justified. If they have overpaid for an acquisition, then this goodwill is not justified. And generally, so generally, if you look at it, goodwill can be a bad thing because goodwill is very frequently impaired. And goodwill impairment is not, like small impairment. You will have billions of dollars of goodwill impairment because the company overpaid. Dheeraj, you have something else to say? Okay.
No, sir.
This one, ROI, ROE, ROCE.
Yes. ROI is return on whatever the investment that company is making, and
Okay.
ROE is like whatever the shareholders have invested, matlab return on the shareholder investment, like is return on equity, and the return on capital employed is whatever the capital the company is using in the business. On that, like net income divided by capital employed, it's the return on capital employed.
Okay. See here, can you tell me the formulas also for all three?
Net income, net operating income divided by total investment.
Okay.
Return on equity मतलब है ना net income or earning available for equity divided by shareholders fund.
Okay.
And return on capital employed, net operating income divided by capital employed.
Capital. Okay. So formulas are correct, and your explanation was correct. So our return on investment can mean many things. It can mean return for the shareholder. It can mean return on investment that a company is getting from a project. So that is what ROI can mean. ROE and ROCE, they are calculated on book value. So you mentioned shareholders fund, and you mentioned the other thing, that is capital employed. But capital employed, and this is here you have to use book value. In most cases, in 99% cases in corporate finance, you are using market value, right? When you're calculating weights, when you're calculating whatever you're calculating. But only in return on equity and return on capital employed, you are using book value weights of equity. Here you are using capital employed. Supposing if a company is debt free, debt nahi hai company ke paas, then ROE and ROCE will become the same, because these two ratios show how efficiently you are using the capital given by the stakeholders. Here you are basically in ROCE, how efficiently you are using the capital given by debt holders plus shareholders. Here it is how efficiently you are using the money given by shareholders. ROI is somewhat different. It is like on a particular project, how much you are getting, and that is the difference. Okay, next one, positive EBITDA recently went bankrupt.
Sir, excuse me, sir. So the main difference between ROI and ROCE is that ROI is particular investment based, and ROCE is the whole company wide thing.
Right.
And sir, another question in the negative working capital question, like if debtors are paying us early, then we are getting cash and cash equivalents, right? So that is also part of current assets. So how is that changing anything?
Okay, so I have a I have a very detailed explanation for this. I will just show you. Good question. I was wondering why no one asked it. You're able to see this presentation?
No, sir.
No, just a minute. Okay, just a minute. So I'll actually paste that answer here. 1 minute. Okay, so okay. So we'll explain it in detail, right? Because since you've asked this question, and I know maybe we'll have to extend the session slightly, but it's fine, right? So okay. So here, supposing that understand this business, what you're doing is you are, let's say, you are just a platform, like supposing you are like Amazon, and drop shipping. If you know drop shipping means that you are getting the orders from the customer. After getting the order from the customer and getting the payment from the customer, you are sending an order to your supplier. Okay, so now you take this example where you are having a agreement with your supplier that you will pay them after 90 days, right? And then your cash collection is immediate, right? For an example, you can assume that now so you had asked on cash and cash equivalent, right? You're getting the cash and cash equivalent, but what you're doing with this cash and cash equivalent, you're not keeping it with you. You are actually investing it in some long-term investment. So because you have some free cash, free excess cash available with you, what you're doing is you are investing in, let's say, the equity market, or you're investing in a factory, or you're investing in some other business. So वहां पे आपका cash balance कम हो जा रहा है, and you are not having any problem with your working capital because your working capital is being met every day. Let's say you are selling, you're collecting some money from the customer, you are having this money with you, and you have to pay your supplier after 90 days, right? So now a gap create हो जा रहा है, right? Today you have collected 1000 rupees from your customer and you have to pay 900 to your supplier after 90 days. So for 90 days, right? For the first 90 days, you don't have to pay anything to anyone. You just have, this 1000 you're collecting, right? Just to make the example simple, 1000 you're collecting every day for 90 days, right? So now you have 90,000 rupees with you. From the 91st day onwards, you know that every day I will be selling for 1000 rupees and I will be paying 900 rupees. This 900 rupees will be for the sale that I made on the first day. Okay, so now you have this 90,000 rupee of cash flow which is available with you without any, without any obligations. This 90,000, supposing you invest in some long-term investment, then your this will, it will go away from your cash and cash equivalent. It will go away from your current assets. It will be invested in a long-term security, and you will be ending up in a situation of negative working capital where you are able to meet your supplier payments on time. You are able to collect the payments from customers on time. All right. So I think example was clear.
Yes.
Yes, sir,
Okay.
very clear.
So I'll okay. Now this one, next one, a positive EBITDA for 10 years, recently went bankrupt. How could this happen?
So there must be huge interest component.
That is one very good reason. Any other reasons? That is definitely one of the top reasons that they are having a huge debt. They are either not able to service the interest or they are not able to service the repayment because the EBITDA is not sufficient to cover the repayments that are coming in or the interest that is coming in. Other than that, any other reason? Another reason
They
could
were
be
making a huge credit sale and
exactly.
debtors are not paying to them.
So they are making a lot of credit sales, and they are not able to collect the cash from their customers. So huge amount of debtors they are having, and this is the problem actually with a lot of Indian businesses, that they are not able to collect money from their customers, and you will see profits on their books, but because of inability to collect, they go bankrupt. Okay. Next is, why is income statement not affected by changes in inventory? Okay, quickly, any answers? Okay, so supposing if I'm buying more inventory, then it is just showing as a decrease in, so it is basically being reflected in the balance sheet. My cash balance is going down, my inventory is going up, or reverse could happen. Supposing if my inventory is going down, then my inventory has gone down, my cash has gone up, or it could be, so my changes in inventory will affect only my cash flow statement. They will not affect my income statement. Okay. A depreciation being non-cash expense, how can it affect cash balance? This is a very interesting question. If any of you can answer. Because there is some mechanism by which depreciation can affect your cash balance. Yes, Pankuri.
So higher the depreciation, I mean the depreciation changes the closing balance of machinery, and so this is how it will get reflected. I mean, our capital balance will get reflected, and therefore cash will get affected with this.
No, but no, that is your. How is it affecting
So
your cash
can
balance? Because
so can
yes,
I?
Anmol.
Hello.
Higher depreciation would lead to tax savings.
And what will happen because of that?
And so if the depreciation is higher, the tax savings would be higher, and then the tax liability would be less, and hence
And the
cash
and there'll be
flow.
a cash inflow, right? So if there's a higher depreciation, it can actually trigger a cash inflow by giving you tax shield. So it's giving you some tax benefit. Because of that, you are actually saving on your cash flow. So even though supposing you have and this similar question, there's another question similar to this. Supposing if I have purchased a machinery by issuing equity shares, how can it affect my cash balance? So the answer is same, that supposing you have issued equity shares as consideration and you have purchased a machinery, on that machinery you will be getting depreciation. On that depreciation, you will be saving tax. So by issuing equity shares against a machine, which is normally a non-cash transaction, right? Normally, if you look at it from one level of analysis, आपको लगेगा कि यहाँ पे तो कोई cash ना आया है ना गया है, but because of the depreciation expense, I'm saving cash, and that is showing up as a cash inflow. In fact, you can give an example also saying that supposing 100 rupees machinery we have purchased, on that 100 rupees machinery, supposing in the first year we are charging 10% depreciation on SLM basis, so 10 rupees additional depreciation expense I'm able to claim. Supposing my tax rate is 30%, so 3 rupees of cash inflow I'm getting by this particular transaction. Okay. Next is EBIT versus EBITDA. Which is better? When should you use each of them? Any answers quickly?
So for calculating so EBITDA is used when we calculate operating leverages, and earning before interest and tax is used when we calculate financial leverage.
What is the purpose, or what is the situation when you should use EBITDA, and what is the situation when you should use EBIT? Someone else was also saying something. Anmol?
So for comparing the operational performance of the company, EBITDA is used, and for comparing the financial health, EBIT is used.
So see, whatever answer you use, it has to be, the answer has to show this, that ये वाले situation में हम EBIT use करते हैं, यहाँ पे EBITDA नहीं use हो सकता, and the other situation should be कि यहाँ पे EBITDA ही use करना पड़ेगा, EBIT नहीं use कर सकते. So any if you can answer that. But ठीक है, so I'll just explain this one. Supposing you are comparing different industries. Okay, first let's take the same industry. Supposing you are comparing different companies in the same industry, what happens is that, supposing airline example, right? Supposing there are two airlines. One of the airlines is Indigo, which has started some years back, maybe 20 years back. Then there could be another airline, for example, Go Air, which has started 10 years back. Now, their entire pattern of cash flows, everything is same. The industry is same. Only maybe the way in which they're calculating the depreciation, that is different. Supposing Indigo is following SLM basis, supposing Go Air is following WTV method, or supposing even if they're following the same method and both of them are following WTV method, then the older airline, right? Older airline, most of the depreciation would have already been booked, because in the initial years you are having a high depreciation charge. So today that older airline company will appear more profitable, and this newer airline company will appear less profitable because of reasons like one of them has assets which are older, one of them has assets which are newer, or it could be that they are using different depreciation methods. So to remove the impact due to choices of depreciation, because depreciation is ultimately a choice, and it is a judgment that the management is making, that how we want to depreciate our assets. So to negate the effect of that, we have to use EBITDA. You can only use EBITDA within the same industry. When you're comparing two different companies from different industries, you should never use EBITDA. Reason being that, again, if we take an airline example, airline has a very high depreciation, because they're all asset, they have a huge lease obligation, and leases also they have to depreciate. So there's a huge obligation there. And let's take another company, a software company. So for a software company, they don't have much assets. So if you use EBITDA for comparing an airline, and for comparing an airline with a software company, you will find that the airline EBITDA is far overstated compared to the software company, because in the software company, EBIT and EBITDA will be roughly the same, because they have a very small depreciation expense, maybe some office furniture, maybe some computers, all those things will be there. तो उनका EBIT EBITDA में ज़्यादा difference नहीं आएगा, but airline में बहुत difference आ जाएगा. And ultimately जो आगे जाके मिलेगा, right? Which is the better figure? Always EBIT is the better figure, because depreciation here is an actual expense that is coming. It is not a something which is leading to cash outflow. But eventually आपको वो asset replace करना पड़ेगा. Asset replace करने के लिए you will need to properly account for whatever capital expenditure is going to come in the future, and वो accounting जो है वो EBIT में ही proper होएगी. Okay, so answer is more or less clear on this.
Yugandhar, I have a question with this. So there is no use for EBIT and EBITDA like for internal purposes. Like there is no differentiation for that.
I didn't understand, for internal purpose.
So what I was thinking with the answer was that which one is best for the internal use of the company. So is there any difference for that in that?
For internal use, it depends a lot on the situation. Supposing if you are comparing various business divisions, so let's take a company like ITC, and for a company like ITC, you want to compare the performance of various divisions, then I want to see which division is performing best. If the divisions are in different industries, generally divisions are in different industries, then EBIT performance is better. Supposing now for within a company, I don't think EBITDA needs to be used, because within the company depreciation policy will be the same. Everyone will be following the same depreciation policy. So EBITDA generally would not be. I can't think of a situation. Maybe there could be a situation, but EBITDA right.
So what I was thinking was that we can use EBITDA in cases where different machineries are used. So the depreciation cost would be different, and replacement of machine.
Right. So it's a good example. Supposing I have two different geographies. Supposing I have North Zone and South Zone, and I started my North Zone. Let's say it's the same business. I have the hotel business. Hotel business may I have two zones, North Zone and South Zone. North Zone I started 10 years back, and in the South Zone I've just started maybe 2 years back. So that so the assets of this South Zone will be newer, and the assets of that North Zone will be older. Supposing if you are using written down value method, then it is better to use EBITDA, because written down value method may the older one, they will be showing very less depreciation. The newer asset will be showing a very high depreciation expense. So you can use EBITDA. If you are using SLM, then again it won't matter because EBIT and EBITDA will give you the same result. Okay. Okay. Advantages of debt over equity.
We can obtain tax benefits if we have invested in.
Tax benefit is one, but tax benefit is definitely it's one, but what is the other one?
Non-dilution of interest of existing shareholders.
Okay, non-dilution is that is also fine, but the argument against non-dilution is that if I was worried about non-dilution, I would issue shares without voting rights, or I would issue shares with differential voting rights. So that option is also there.
So for reducing the
That's
profit,
still
suppose
going over equity. If we compare between debt and equity,
Who
debt
is speaking?
is
Actually, I can't
big.
see. If you raise your hand, it will be better because then I will be able to see who is speaking. Right. So Harsh is saying cost of equity is higher than cost of debt. That is the main reason. And the reason for that is also that your cost of equity debt is cheaper. Correct. So Pradeep is also saying debt is cheaper. That is the advantage. Now the reverse question, what is the disadvantage? Disadvantage is that debt creates a risk because there's a chance that it's a fixed expense. Supposing if your earnings go down in any particular month or quarter, you may not be able to service the debt. So debt is risky, but debt is cheaper. Equity is low risk for the organization, but it is in a way high cost for the organization. Reverse thing happens in case of the investor. So always you have to understand that किसी ना किसी पे risk आ रहा है, किसी ना किसी पे return आ रहा है. So in case of equity, the equity shareholder is bearing a higher risk, and that person is also demanding a higher return. For the company, they are paying a higher cost. For equity shareholders, they are also getting the benefit of lower risk. For debt, everything is just the reverse. The debt holder is demanding a lower return, but they are also taking on less risk on themselves. For the company, it is the reverse. The company is taking more risk by taking more debt, but they are getting the advantage of lower cost. Okay,
So
and
how
this is
would
now
we
okay.
how would we
Siddhant, yes.
justify how would we justify saying that equity has a higher cost than debt? Like, what is the explanation if someone asks?
Okay, so how do you calculate cost of equity?
Not very sure, sir.
Sorry.
I'm not very sure, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, can I take
Anyone
this
else?
question?
Sure.
So through CAPM model.
So
Through
why
CAP.
cost of equity is greater than cost of debt is because so there is a risk return trade-off. So with cost of equity, since there's a higher risk, so investors they expect a higher return, and so cost of equity is higher. And for debt, since the risk is less from the point of view of investor, so that is why the cost of debt is less than equity.
Right. So it's clear now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Which is the next one? 1 minute. Okay. Definition of depreciation. This is a 12th standard question, but it is like people still make this mistake. And because what is depreciation? Can anyone tell me? Yes, Pradeep.
Sir, depreciation means a systematical allocation of depreciable amount for a particular asset over a period of time.
Right. So it is basically the allocation of historical cost. You when given the right answer, the wrong answers which sometimes people give, that it is a reflection of wear and tear, it is a reflection of obsolescence, it is a reflection of many other things. That is not what depreciation is. And if you use these other terms, आपको confusion होएगा later, because depreciation is just the fact that I have incurred a cost of, let's say, 1 lakh today, and I am actually going to get the benefit, the so-called future economic benefit of this I'm going to get over the next 10 years. So I'm just allocating this 1 lakh cost over this period of 10 years on some systematic or reasonable basis. Right? Yes, Pankudi.
I have a question with this for this definition. So
Okay.
so when we study Indias, we study that there is impairment of asset and so on. So but then there is reversal also. So how depreciation is also affected in that scenario, right? So like how can we
Reversal of
justify this
depreciation.
definition? How can we justify the definition of depreciation being write-off of historical cost.
Reversal of depreciation is not there. I'm not sure which provision you're
No,
talking about.
reversal of not depreciation, but the depreciation amount also gets affected when impairment and reversal of impairment happens. So I just need
Okay.
a little more clarity.
Then the difference,
Okay.
then the
So
difference.
this is an important question,
Yeah.
that what is depreciation, what is impairment, and this is why the definition of depreciation is important, especially when you are discussing this impairment concept. And this is a very common question, that what is the difference between depreciation and impairment. So impairment is occurring because there has been something has happened, कुछ हुआ है, because of which the asset is not having that, whatever value it was having previously, that has been affected, and it is a permanent decline. And because of that permanent decline, it will be unfair to show that particular asset at whatever value it is being shown. The most simple example is मेरी machine थी, machine में आग लग गई. Because of that fire, the machine got affected and its production capacity got lowered. And now instead of being able to produce, let's say 500 units per month, the capacity of that machine was reduced to 300 units per month. So to account for this reduction in future economic benefit, I will be doing the impairment. And then this impairment, supposing I am able to do some kind of repair, and supposing repair hua hai, तो then repair ka kharcha I will obviously be capitalizing, but I will be able to bring it back, supposing to its older level. So then I will be reversing this impairment, supposing whatever condition was there for that impairment, that condition has gone now. So I will be able to reverse it. So impairment is a completely different concept. And now depreciation changes. Depreciation changes because my cost itself has changed. Because, or you can say my carrying amount, not my cost, but my carrying amount. Because now I'm saying that this asset, which was, let's say, at 100 rupees after 5 years, and assuming it was having a 10 rupees depreciation per year for years. At the end of 5th year, it was showing 50 rupees. But because of this fire, it is now, we are bringing it down to 30 rupees. But now, since we have brought it down to 30 rupees by booking this impairment loss of 20 rupees, it will not be proper to continue charging 10 rupees of depreciation over it, right? Because future ka depreciation has been changed because of this impact of impairment. Is it kind of clear?
Yes, yes.
And
Okay.
sir, also there is change in accounting estimates. So if there is also change in life of asset, so depreciation changes that way too.
Right, absolutely. So then it is like, I had an estimate that this particular asset will last for 10 years, but then based on my accounting estimate, now I'm feeling that it will only last for 8 years. Then obviously I will have to change my amount of depreciation. And accounting estimate, when you're changing, always the effect is prospective. So in for the future, you'll have to change your depreciation. Okay. Okay. Can IRR be negative?
Yes, sir, it can be negative.
Okay, can you explain how?
When there is when investment losses, मतलब जो भी investment अपना होता है ना, वो loss पे आने लगता है ना, that case.
Right. So supposing your future cash flow, the absolute amount, not the discounted amount, supposing you have done an investment, your investment amount is 100 rupees. Next year, you are going to get back 90 rupees, right? Supposing if next year you would have been getting 101 rupees, then the IRR would have been 1 rupee. Supposing it is less than your initial investment, then आपका IRR negative हो जाएगा. Okay, outflow is greater. Define synergy. From an accounting perspective, from a or from a corporate finance perspective, what is the meaning of synergy? Okay, synergy basically means whenever you have two companies, you have some cash flows, right? Company A says you are getting some kind of cash flows. Company B say you are getting some kind of cash flows. Synergy is the principle, or synergy is the you can say the assumption that now when A and B are being merged, the combined cash flow of A plus B is more than the individual, like if the company A is getting 100 rupees of cash flows, free cash flows, company B is getting 200 rupees of free cash flows, the merged entity will get say rupees 350 worth of cash flow. So whatever reasons, maybe you are getting more market power, whatever your maybe the reason, but basically that is the definition of synergy. Key combined entity is getting more than the sum of the parts. Okay. Risk-free rate for countries like Sri Lanka, Afghanistan. Yes, your name is Tripura. So first name.
Yes, sir, Tripura,
Okay.
sir.
Yes, Tripura.
Sir, I think risk-free rate will be the rate of return on government bonds.
Okay. Supposing this
Mostly
Sri Lankan.
developed countries, sir, we can only use that developed countries risk-free rate.
So you are saying it will be the government bond or the developed country government bond? Sri Lankan government bond or
No,
developed
sir,
country?
developed country government bond.
So you'll use that straight away, or you'll need to make some kind of adjustment?
Sir, I think we have to make some adjustments on inflation.
Inflation, right, right. So you saw that corporate finance class or some like how did you cover
Sir,
this?
this was on your free content. No, sir.
Okay, okay, that one, right, right, understood. Okay. Okay. So this one basically you'll have to do an adjustment for inflation because all these countries you can't trust the government bond rate because there's a lot of risk embedded in that government bond rate also. Okay. This one, if we capitalize
We
R&D.
have to adjust the inflation on the government bonds of developed countries.
Right. So supposing you have the US Treasury bond rate. Now in Sri Lanka, let's say the inflation is 10%. In US, supposing the inflation is 5%, and the US government bond rate is, let's say, 6%, right? So now you'll have to do 6% into 1.1 divided by 1.05, right? So you are basically adjusting the risk-free rate of US for the inflation of Sri Lanka. Reason why you're doing this is because all your cash flows, right? All the cash flows that you're estimating in Sri Lanka, that is in Sri Lankan currency. So just to match the Sri Lankan cash flow that is being reported with the currency, you will have to use this. Okay. Second option is that you do the entire calculation in US dollars only. So whatever cash flow estimates you're having, those cash flow estimates, you make it in dollars and then you use a dollar risk-free rate. Okay. This one. If we capitalize R&D, how will it impact these three things? EBITDA, net income, and cash flow.
Sir, EBITDA will increase because then it will not be an expense because we are capitalizing it.
Sorry, what will happen to EBITDA?
It will increase, sir, because then
Okay.
our expenses that were earlier would have come in EBITDA,
Okay,
not expenses. Similarly, for net income, the same impact will be there because it flows from EBITDA. And for cash flow, sir, there as per me, I don't think there will be any impact as such.
Okay. So in case of EBITDA, EBITDA will always increase, as you rightly mentioned. Net income, it will increase in the initial years because in the initial years, what is happening is that your R&D expense, which was, let's say, 100 rupees, now you are saying 100 rupees instead of booking it straight away, booking it today, I'm going to book it over a period of 5 years. So net income, it will increase in the initial years, it will decrease in the later years because later years, you will have to take this impact of depreciation. Cash flow, direct impact, there will be no impact on cash flow. Indirect impact because of the taxation effect. Supposing if we are able to get the benefit of tax here, so all those effects will be there. And same thing will happen here also, that in the later years, I will be basically getting some cash inflow from the, let's say, the additional depreciation which I was getting. And in the initial year, my cash flow will be lowered because I have to suffer the cost of higher net income, right? So always now this is actually just arising out of this net income thing only, right? Net income is increasing, so cash flow on account of taxes only, that cash flow is decreasing. Later in the later years, my net income was higher, and this cash flow, because my net income was higher, my tax outflow was higher, and my cash flow overall at an overall level, my cash flow became lower. Okay. Now we are going to so till now it's clear. I hope it is fine. Just a minute.
Sir, can you explain about net income, effect on net income?
Effect on net income. Okay. So net income, see, in the initial years, let's say you have a expense, R&D expense of 100 rupees. Okay. So now in the first year, let's see what was happening earlier. Earlier we were expensing of the entire R&D expense. So my so from my income, I was deducting 100 rupees, right? Now what I'm doing is, instead of deducting 100 rupees, I only have to deduct 20 rupees, because in the first year, I am only considering my R&D expense as 20 rupees. In the second year, again, I will be booking 20 rupees. Third year, again, I'll be booking 20 rupees. Fourth year and fifth year also. So in the first year, my net income will increase by 80 rupees, because earlier I had to deduct 100 rupees, but now I'm only having to deduct 20 rupees. But in the second, third, fourth, and fifth year, my net income will decrease by 20 rupees each. Is it clear now?
Sir, please explain impact on cash flow also.
Okay, impact on cash flow. See, now let's take the straight without taking into account taxes, right? Let's ignore taxes completely for now. If we are ignoring taxes completely, then my accounting treatment has no implication at all. Just because I decide to capitalize something, or just because I decide to expense of something, my cash flows are not affected at all, because my cash flow is dependent on whether I'm paying something out of pocket or I'm receiving something out of pocket. So my accounting treatment will have no effect on cash flows. That is the level 1 analysis. Level 2 analysis is that why does my accounting income matter, and how does my accounting income affect my cash flows? The only reason why my pure accounting income can affect cash flows is because of taxes. मेरा accounting income बढ़ जाएगा तो मेरा taxes बढ़ जाएगा, मेरा accounting income कम हो जाएगा तो मेरा tax कम हो जाएगा, right? That is the only way in which mere accounting adjustments can make a difference to your cash flow, right? It is similar, in fact, to the question we discussed here, where we said ki how can depreciation affect your cash flow, right? So यहाँ पे accounting changes in accounting income, right? Supposing you are having some transaction, right? Supposing if you are incurring some R&D expense, then your cash flow is directly being affected, right? But here, incurring part is we are not discussing, we are just discussing the accounting part. So accounting effect से cash flow पे effect कैसे आ रहा है? Only because of the changes in taxes. If my accounting income is higher, then my taxes will be higher and my cash outflow will be higher. If my accounting income is lower, then my cash outflow will be lower. So here in the initial years, okay, in the initial years, what did we say? In the initial years, my net income became higher. Why did my net income become higher? Because I did not book the entire 100 rupees as expense. I booked just 20 rupees as expense. Because of this, my cash flow was also affected. My cash flow became lower because higher accounting income, or higher, you can say higher taxable income, it led to higher taxes, which meant cash flow was lower. Reverse thing happened during year 2, 3, 4, and 5, where I was able to get the benefit of 20 rupees, 20 rupees depreciation, which was adding to my cash flows.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
It was clear? Okay. Okay. So now we'll go to some pure Ind-AS questions. Of course, there are other questions also. Let's see the time. Okay. We have 2 more hours. First, we'll just cover Ind-AS 2. Okay. So quickly, even though answers are written here, but okay, I'll do one thing. Okay, you can just try volume discount. What will you do? What will you do with fixed and variable cost? Because in Ind-AS, people think that Ind-AS 2 सबसे simple है, but वहाँ पे सबसे ज़्यादा questions आ जाते हैं, and you will see these questions and you'll realize that it is not so easy to answer Ind-AS 2 questions. So and last time Ind-AS 2 was one of the most popular topics. So we'll just quickly cover them. Volume discount, what will you do to this? So you can just give the answers. It's fine. Okay, so volume discount, you will basically be deducting it from the inventory value. Supposing अगर आप purchase कर रहे हो कुछ inventory, you are getting a volume discount for that, then you will reduce your inventory valuation because of that. Whether to include fixed and variable cost, whether to include just variable cost, you have to include both. Okay, abnormal waste, you will not be loading it onto inventory, right? Abnormal waste basically means there's some additional cost you are incurring, which you're not allowed to add on to your inventory valuation. You have to charge it directly to your PL. Okay, next is storage cost. Storage cost, can someone explain what should we do with storage cost?
So
There are
generally
small
storage
links written.
cost,
Right, Dheeraj?
generally storage cost is not included in the cost. But if a process requirement is such that it is necessary, then it needs to be kept
Needs to be
added
included.
to the cost of inventory.
Okay. Okay. Next one is freight. Freight is very important. This was asked in so many interviews that what will I do with
Sir,
freight inward?
hello,
Who is speaking?
sir, Seema.
Yes, Seema.
Sir, can you give me the example of storage cost when it will be included?
Okay. So let's say that let's take an example of something like which takes a lot of time to mere storage itself is something that is a part of the process. Let's say you can take the example of liquor. So liquor, what happens is that the longer you store it, it is said that the quality is improving. So supposing they are storing the liquor in the warehouse just so that they are able to market it saying that this is 5-year-old thing or this is 7-year-old wine. So in that cases, you can say that storage cost is a part of, it's necessary for selling that final product. In that case, you have to add it to your inventory cost. Let's take some other example. Supposing if you can take the example of, let's say, any agriculture produce where
Sir,
you need
we
to
can
store
take
it.
butter.
Butter, I don't know about this industry. If you have, can you tell me how in butter, what is the process?
The butter has to be stored at less than 0 degrees centigrade if it has to be preserved for a good amount of time.
No, so
So
here
we will allocate the cost on the basis of units.
okay, so see,
Or is there
butter, I
any
will say butter, it is not a part of your process. In fact, butter, you have given the example, you have to store it, but butter, why are you storing it? Supposing if you are storing it because you are not able to sell it, right? If you are storing the butter because you are waiting for someone to buy it, in that case, you are not allowed to include your storage cost, because here it is like, let's say something is lying in your inventory, then you're not allowed to take it as part of your inventory cost only when the creation of that butter itself would require to store it for some time, right? So supposing if just to convert that milk into butter, I need to store that milk for say 2 days or 1 week or whatever. In that case, you can add it after it is a finished product. After that butter is ready, now I am waiting that that wholesaler is demanding for that butter, or that I am transporting it. So all those things you will not be able to add it.
I think instead of butter, we can take the example of cheese. I mean, rather than butter, it's
Right,
also.
right. So cheese also you need to store it for it to reach the state where you want to sell it.
No, what my point was that cheese, like some cheeses, like it is stored for aging process.
Exactly.
So
right.
But these things are have
So in fact, you can take a lot of examples. Even rice is there. That there are some rice varieties where they say that rice, we have aged this rice for 5 years, and then on that packet it is written, okay, someone has written rice actually. Medicine, cold.
So pickles is also an example.
Okay, many examples I've got. Okay. Alcohol I've covered, wine I've covered, pickle good example. Grapes for alcohol, cold storage. See, cold storage, I wouldn't say you can include it in this, because cold storage, you are doing it because cold storage also, there are two ways, right? Supposing cold storage, you're doing it because you know that now is the season for, let's say, peas. Like, let's say winter is the season when you are getting peas, and you want to sell this pea in summer at a higher price. That is your objective, and deliberately you are storing it for waiting for that, summer season. In that case, you can include this cold storage cost. But supposing cold storage mein just pada hai, you are waiting for your inventory to be sold, in that case, you can't include it. Medicine, I don't know whether, it depends on the situation to situation. Whether if medicine requires so much time to produce it, then uska storage mein aa jayega. Rice, definitely, supposing if that rice is being sold, that 5-year-old rice is there, 10-year-old rice is there, so in those cases you can include it. Tomato, not really.
सर इनका
Okay.
एलोकेशन बेसिस क्या होगा वैसे स्टोरेज कॉस्ट का, बिकॉज इन्वेंट्री के लेवल्स तो चेंज होते रहते हैं.
So
I think
आपने, so whatever your storage cost is, supposing today your you will allocate it over your number of units. That is what you'll have to do. So probably on a daily basis, that if you talk about accuracy, right? If you talk about accuracy, तो I would say कि every day you need to see कि मेरा 1000 यूनिट स्टोर्ड है, तो उस डे का इन्वेंट्री कॉस्ट मैं 1000 यूनिट पे डाल दूंगा. अगर अगले दिन 500 यूनिट स्टोर्ड है, तो 500 यूनिट के ऊपर मैं डाल दूंगा. Otherwise, it can be, some estimate that you regularly I'm able to, get this kind of regularly my storage period is 2 months. So I know कि मेरा 2 months के लिए storage होएगा ही, and for those 2 months I will have to see that okay, my container size is this much. In this container I am keeping 100 units. This 100 units I'm having to keep deliberately for 2 months. So then I can allocate it over that 100 units.
Yugandhar, can we do a similar thing for packaging cost also? I mean, can you clarify more on that? I think it's similar to storage cost. Like the
So
treatment.
packaging also, supposing that packaging, all the costs, right, which are, in fact, all packaging costs also, you need to include it in the value of the inventory. Earlier, this concept was there, which I don't think is used anymore. Earlier, this concept was there that the inner packaging is being included in the inventory cost, the outer packaging is not being included, right? So supposing you are having, let's say, a soap. So there's a small carton over that soap. That cost will be considering it as, let's say, inner packaging. Then you are keeping those let's say 50 soaps in one bigger carton. That carton cost you're not including, but the current Ind AS, the what should I call it, the language of the Ind AS, and even what is practically correct is also this, that whatever is needed to bring that inventory to the present location and condition, all those costs will be included. So all packaging costs will be included. But supposing if it is repackaging, supposing if I have taken the inventory and I have shipped it to, let's say, some warehouse, and then I've shipped it to, let's say, a shop, and then from that shop I'm having to bring it back to the warehouse for some reason because it is not being sold there. Then I'm packing it and then I'm bringing it back. Then so all those costs will not be included. Whatever is in the regular process of sale, whatever is needed to get it to that particular shop or wherever, whatever is the point of sale, all those costs will be included. Okay.
So the previous concept that you told, it's discarded now. Is it?
It's discarded because I actually I was not able to find a ready opinion on this, but from the language it was very clear that this concept, it is not making any practical sense also, that why are you including the inner one and why are you excluding the outer one, and the language is very clear. All costs for bringing the inventory to the present location and condition need to be included, which makes it very clear that packaging costs will also be included.
Until the point that it reaches direct customers. So for example, if it is in an FMCG business, and like till the point it gets to the shop where it is being sold.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So we've covered actually this part. So now freight, I'll tell you, freight, there are a lot of questions that come on freight. So question is whether freight inward is included, whether freight outward is included. Supposing I'm transferring the goods from my factory to warehouse, will that be included? Supposing I'm shifting it from one warehouse to the next warehouse, will that be included? So in all cases, even for freight, the answer is this only, that if that freight was incurred to bring it to its present location and condition, then that freight has to be included. It doesn't matter if it's freight inward, if it's freight outward. All freight is basically being included, except supposing if the freight is abnormal. So whenever it is abnormal in nature, whenever it is something that is not in the normal course. So supposing you're bringing that item up to the showroom. So something very interesting will happen here. Supposing you are having, let's say, shoes. राइट, आपका प्रोडक्ट शूज है, वो शू जब फैक्ट्री में पड़ा हुआ है, इट इज स्टिल अ फिनिश्ड गुड which is lying at the factory, that shoe will be, let's say, valued at 100 rupees. You are having 10 shoes which are lying at your factory, which are valued at 100 rupees. Those 10 shoes, same 10 shoes, when they're lying at your warehouse, they will be valued at slightly higher because the freight cost will be added. Same shoes, when they're lying at your shop or at the showroom, they will be valued higher because all these freight costs will also be included in that shoe. And that is a practical thing also, that having shoes at my showroom is much more valuable for me as a company compared to having it at my factory. So wo jo showroom mein shoe pada hai, that shoe will actually have my freight costs included. Okay, so freight part is clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Administrative overhead, you'll have to exclude. You cannot load it onto your inventory cost. Administrative overhead, again, there is, a slight catch here. Supposing if you are having a factory and that factory is overhead is there. So supposing your factory overhead is there, that overhead you'll have to include in the inventory cost, because आपकी factory का पूरा operation जो है, that operation itself is to make your products. So that cost will basically become a fixed cost, fixed overhead, which will be added to your inventory cost. Corporate office cost, you will not be adding to your inventory cost. Okay. Now coming to interest cost. Can you give me any example when interest cost should be included?
Borrowing cost, interest of borrowing cost.
I couldn't hear you. Which one?
If you have borrowed fund for an inventory production, and the interest cost, that will be incurred on that, not the principal part, but the interest.
When it is directly attributable to the operations of factory operations.
See,
If inventory is
normally,
a qualifying asset,
yes. So I need this answer. Who is giving this answer?
Samvika.
Yes,
Sir,
please.
if inventory is our qualifying asset, like inventory take more than 12 months or more to get produced, then we will add borrowing cost in the inventory cost.
Right. So this is the same thing which you'll have to follow. And practical example also someone has given in the case of construction, that your inventory is taking more than 12 months to produce. So in that case, it becomes a qualifying asset. If your inventory is a qualifying asset, then your borrowing cost can be included. Same rule you'll have to follow even while capitalization of your, even in India 16. That supposing if you are making a fixed asset, वो fixed asset में आप borrowing cost कब load कर सकते हो? You can only load it when that fixed asset is a qualifying asset. When is it a qualifying asset? When it is taking a longer than 12 months to produce. Otherwise, you cannot do it. Now coming to the previous examples which you were giving, that supposing I have borrowed to make the inventory. If you have borrowed to make the inventory, that is not a justification for including your including your interest cost in your inventory cost, because I can make the same inventory using my own funds, using shareholders fund, let's say, and I can make the same inventory using say debt. दोनों cases में my inventory cost should be the same. If it is not the same, then there is something wrong with my valuation. So that is why you will only include the interest cost when it is necessary to bring it to its condition. Okay. Next is, can you use both FIFO and weighted average together? So first of all, can you use LIFO in? Can you use LIFO?
No, India does not.
It does not allow only. US GAAP allows.
US GAAP allows.
Yes, IFRS allows.
IFRS does not allow, I think. IFRS allows, not sure. India doesn't allow that, I'm sure.
Sir, IFRS also, there is an option in IFRS, you can use any of this. This is the carve out.
This is a carve out, okay. So India doesn't allow, IFRS and GAAP allow. Now, can you use FIFO and weighted average together? Answer is given here, but so if it's a different nature of inventory, then you can use both of them, as long as you cannot use it for the same nature of inventory. Obviously, you cannot say that I'm having soaps and for that same soaps, I'm using FIFO also at weighted average at the same time. But obviously, because a company can have so many different businesses, तो किसी में FIFO अगर लग रहा है तो FIFO लगा लो, weighted average लग रहा है वहां पे लगा लो. Okay, foreign exchange gain and losses. When to use FIFO and weighted average, that is an estimate that the company has to make. Your so the principle is that you have to use a method which accurately reflects your pattern of selling. Supposing अगर आप inventory खरीदते जा रहे हो, let's take an example like this, that supposing you are buying something, you're buying packets of rice. Okay, supposing you're buying packets of rice and you're selling packets of rice, then generally what you would be doing is that you would be rice is actually not the best example because वहाँ पे aging वाला concept होता है. Let's take something like wheat. Okay, so let's say you are buying packets of wheat and you're selling packets of wheat. तो वहाँ पे whatever you have purchased first, that you would probably be selling first. Okay, so in such a situation, FIFO is more appropriate, or FIFO is giving a better reflection of your pattern of selling. Supposing you are having it like you're dealing with wheat in bulk and you are getting it, आप उसको वहाँ heap में डाल दे रहे हो, you're getting new wheat, you're also putting it there, and you're getting you're mixing all your inventory, and then you're selling from that inventory. So in that case, all your inventory is mixed, and there is no such thing where the inventory which came in earlier is being sold earlier. All the inventory is by its very nature, it's being mixed, and then you're selling from that. In that case, weighted average is the more appropriate method. Okay, just a minute. Okay, now
Sir, but how is weighted average more appropriate when we have different kinds of inventory? Like in MACD, we have different kinds of items and prices also vary.
I didn't understand your question.
जैसे मैकडी में हम डिफरेंट टाइप्स की इन्वेंट्री यूज होती है एंड सबका प्राइस भी वेरी करता है, तो हम उसमें वेटेड एवरेज कैसे यूज कर सकते हैं?
I didn't understand which company or which industry?
मैकडी जैसे मैकडी
McDonald's.
बर्गर किंग. Yes.
Okay, so you're talking about raw materials या क्या? Raw materials of McDonald's.
रॉ मटेरियल्स नहीं, जैसे वो उनके आउटलेट्स पे जो इन्वेंट्री होती है,
हाँ,
या उनके
which is like
कोल्ड स्टोरेज
tomatoes हो
वगैरह
गए, जो भी हो गया. हाँ.
तो उसमें तो बहुत डिफरेंट टाइप्स की इन्वेंट्री होती है, तो उसमें हम सबके लिए सेम वो वेटेड एवरेज कैसे कर सकते हैं? सबका प्राइस बहुत डिफरेंट होता है.
हाँ, so in that case, FIFO is better. Supposing generally for vegetables या for things जहाँ पे बहुत quick वहाँ पे turn around हो रहा है, so there FIFO is better because whatever you're buying first, that you're using first. Whenever the situation is like this, that whatever you're buying first, you're using first, in that case try to use FIFO. When this situation is not there, कि आपने खरीद लिया, you're putting it together, and वहाँ पे मतलब automatically it will happen that your weighted average is the pattern of consumption.
Okay.
Was that clear? मतलब question मुझे लगा कि that was the question है. ठीक है. Next is forex gain and loss. So forex gain and losses, you will always have to charge it to PL. When will forex gain and loss arise? Supposing मैंने inventory खरीदी from outside, and I entered into that agreement. Let's say today I said I'll pay $1,000 to buy that inventory. Today the rate of dollar is 80 rupees, and I'm going to pay that person after 3 months, and I have not done any kind of hedging, right? So here this situation will only arise when I have not done any kind of hedging. So यहाँ पे 3 months later I again have to pay that person $1,000, but now the dollar rate is 85. So obviously I'm having some kind of this 5,000 rupee cost. This cost I cannot add on to my inventory cost. Whenever I have entered into this inventory purchase, at that point itself my or rather actually I should say whenever supposing I have some kind of debtor and the value of the debtor is changing because of forex gain and losses, then all that has to be charged to PL. You cannot do it onto inventory. Okay, now level of applying NRV versus cost, right? NRV versus cost everyone knows, but the question is, supposing I have let's say I am a company which is selling soaps also, and I'm a company which is I'm selling 2 types of soap, and I'm selling 2 types of shampoo. My first type of soap is where the cost is more than NRV. Second kind of soap, the NRV is less than the cost. And even within that kind of soap, I have some soaps which are old. For those old soaps, the NRV has become lower, and for the newer ones which I have produced, the cost is higher. So there could be varying levels, right? कि मेरा should I look at my inventory as a whole कि वहां पे मेरा NRV versus cost लगाना है, या should I look at each individual level that my NRV versus cost should be measured? Should I look at vertical level that for each vertical I'll separately see whichever is lower, I'll calculate it using that. So from the plain reading of Ind AS, what I could find was that you have to apply it at the item level. Any item that you have where the NRV is lower than cost, then you have to bring it down to your NRV. Okay. Sale at loss after reporting date. Okay, so this is the question that I have an inventory which was valued at 100 rupees. On 15th April, I sold that inventory for 70 rupees. So in that case, this basically is an event after reporting date. Normally, you would know that event after reporting date is not being considered for the reporting date, but यहाँ पे this is an indicator that maybe the net realizable value which I had thought on 31st March, that net realizable value was actually only 70 rupees. I did a miscalculation, and that that NRV on 31st March itself was just 70 rupees. So in that case, I will have to adjust my NRV. But supposing the situation is different, supposing I am actually selling it at a loss because something has happened between that period, right? Supposing there has been a fire at my godown. Because of that fire, the value of my inventory has come down. Let's say that fire happened on 7th April, and then on 15th April, I sold it at the loss. Then I don't have to do this adjustment because the loss is because of an event after my reporting date. Agar event before reporting date, then I have to adjust my NRV. Okay, so clear Ind AS to what all questions can come? Doubts till now? And how is the pace? Is it too fast, too slow? Is it right?
Yeah, it's right, sir.
So the pace is nice.
Okay. Okay. Now we'll go to few other Ind AS accounting type questions. Right, bank OD. Is it cash and cash equivalent, or is it a current liability?
Current liability.
Okay. So here it depends on the question whether your bank OD is an integral part of your cash management. Supposing if you are using it as your cash only, right? Bank OD मैं वहां से withdraw कर रहा हूँ, and I'm continuously circulating bank OD and using it as part of my cash and cash equivalent. If it's an integral part of my cash management operations, then it becomes cash and cash equivalent. If I'm using it as a borrowing, if I'm using it as debt, in that case it becomes a current liability. Okay. Okay. Now depreciation charged wrongly. Okay. I realized what I had done is that I had in the first year, let's say I had purchased an asset and I forgot to charge depreciation on it. All right. This is in fact a very practical issue. So I can tell you this happens in a lot of companies where they bought an AC. AC, is let's say a plant and machinery. But what they did with the AC was that they took it as this office equipment, and you would know, like in Schedule 2, many categories are there. The office equipment ka life 5 years रहता है, plant and machinery ka life 15 years रहता है. So all these various things are there. I treated my AC as an office equipment and I charged depreciation on that. Now what should I do? Any answers? Okay, how OD will be CCE? Okay, so you can try answering this. Meanwhile, I'll just cover this again. Bank OD, supposing if you are using it for the purpose of borrowing, okay, how will OD be CC? See, now both of you have asked the reverse question. Pradeep is feeling that OD is taken for working capital purposes only, so it should be treated as cash and cash equivalent only. Shika is saying that how can it be cash and cash equivalent? It should be current liability. So it actually depends on the purpose. why you are taking that OD. Supposing in many companies you will find that वो OD को अपना current account बना के रखा है. They are basically doing all their vendor payments directly from that OD account. They are collecting the payments into that OD account, and every day basically that OD account they are using it as their own current account. So that is the part of your cash and cash equivalent only. Sometimes let's say that OD is circulating. So let's say today there's a 100 rupees positive balance in there. Tomorrow there's a 100 rupees negative balance in there in that OD account. After a few days, maybe there's a 1,000 rupees positive balance. It keeps circulating from positive to negative because I'm using it as my bank account. Basically, I'm using it as my current account. In that case, it will be a cash and cash equivalent. Reason being that it will be. Don't you think it will be unfair if कि जिस डे पे वो ओडी अकाउंट में मेरा पॉजिटिव बैलेंस है, जिस दिन उस ओडी अकाउंट में 1,000 रुपए है, या wherever there's 1,000 rupees in that OD account, then I'm treating it as cash and cash equivalent. Whenever it goes into negative, I suddenly start treating it as current liability. That will not be the right approach, right? So whenever it is an integral part of your cash management activity, then you have to treat it as cash and cash equivalent. Supposing you're using OD for as a borrowing, whether it's a short-term borrowing or whether it's a long-term, it can never be a long-term borrowing. But supposing you're using OD as a short-term borrowing, in that case, you have to treat it as a current liability. Okay. Yes, Anmol.
So, in the case of prior period items,
Great.
I think we should treat it as a retroactive adjustment, like whatever was the adjustment till now, that we have to adjust and in the current year's depreciation, and then charge the new depreciation rate from now onwards, which is known as retroactive adjustment.
Right. So, supposing if this error is material, so based on materiality, I may even have to go for restatement of my accounts. If if this is material, otherwise, if it is immaterial, then I can adjust it in that same year, and I can show it as a prior period this one expense. I can directly basically charge it to my equity if my prior period this adjustment is there. Now, okay. This
So, sir,
next
it
question.
will be retrospectively changed.
Yes. So retrospective change is there. Yes, it's a retrospective change. And now you'll ask me that how will you do a retrospective change? So if it is material, then you'll have to do it using your restatement. Supposing if it is not material, then you can directly adjust it to your carrying amounts, and your PL balance will change.
Okay, sir.
Okay. You purchased a machinery 200. Okay. So you had lot of these provisions earlier. Even now some provisions are there where you can take a accelerated depreciation is there, but not just accelerated depreciation. You can take a 200% deduction for some reason. So you purchased a machinery for 5 lakhs and you took a 200% deduction in the first year on it. Now you tell me that what is the deferred tax asset or deferred tax liability that will be created. I will give you the example also. Let's say it's a machinery that is costing 10 lakh rupees, and for this 10 lakh rupees worth of machinery, in accounting, I am going on SLM basis 1 lakh per year for the next 10 years. Okay, so now you can tell me what will be my deferred tax liability or asset. I'll give you the tax rate also. Okay, I'll give you the
asset.
okay. Deferred tax liability. Okay. 19 lakh into tax rate means?
So it's 2,70,000. We will recognize deferred tax liability.
Right. So 2,70,000, how did you get it?
It's like 9 lakh will be the timing difference, as we have got 200% deduction, out of which 100% is permanent difference.
Okay.
Okay.
What will happen to that permanent difference?
So as per, yes, sir.
What will happen to that permanent difference?
Sir, we will not recognize any deferred tax liability for that. It will be our tax saving.
Right. So you've given the correct answer, 100% correct answer. That that out of the, I'm getting a deduction of 20 lakhs now. 20 out of this 20 lakhs, 10 lakhs is my permanent difference, for which I don't have to do anything. It will straight away show up in my PL as a lower tax amount. So nothing I have to do for that. For 10 lakhs, it's a timing difference, and the timing difference is basically on this amount of 9 lakhs, because I have taken depreciation which I should have taken in the future years. 9 lakhs worth of depreciation I've taken today only. So on that 9 lakh, 30%, 2,70,000 is the deferred tax liability. This answer is clear?
Yes. So depreciation charge wrong. Uska nahi pata.
So can you elaborate on why 100% would be permanent difference as per Ind AS?
Okay. So see, this is a government policy, right? What did the government say? They said that we want to encourage you to purchase assets. So they said that you purchase an asset of 10 lakhs, we will be giving you a depreciation, you will be giving you an instant depreciation or instant deduction of 20 lakhs. So for accounting purpose, I have paid 10 lakhs and my depreciation is only on this 10 lakhs, right? So in my accounting, I will be noting this depreciation of 1 lakh, 1 lakh, 1 lakh every year for the next 10 years. But today I have received a benefit of 20 lakhs into 30%. This is the benefit which I have received. Out of this benefit, half of it is a permanent difference because I don't have to suffer any cost in future for this particular thing. For 9 lakhs, so for 10 lakhs worth of depreciation, which is the additional depreciation, right? Other than this first 100%, right? 100% of this depreciation is for basically accelerated depreciation, right? Accelerated depreciation means मुझे जो बाद में depreciation मिलना चाहिए था, that depreciation I have been able to take now. That is accelerated depreciation. Accelerated depreciation के case में basically it's a timing difference where I have to recognize my deferred tax liability. In case of additional depreciation, which is beyond my first 100%, that depreciation is just a free fund money that I'm getting from the government. It is, you can say, like a straight away benefit in tax saving that I'm getting from the government. I don't have to pay anything later to anyone because of that, whether for accounting purpose or for any purpose. So that is a permanent difference. Permanent difference, it is directly recorded as a current year tax saving, and it will boost my current year profits. Is it clear now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So now this is a very typical question.
Sir, can you explain depreciation charge wrongly? That's what it was not done.
Depreciation charged wrongly.
Yes, sir.
Right. So depreciation, supposing if your depreciation charged wrongly was let's say this one, the error was material. Supposing if the error is material, then you have to go for restatement of accounts, because this is the I don't remember exactly which index, but that index is there, no, in which all the prior period things are taken care of. So there you have to go for restatement if you have if there's a material this one. If it is not material, then I'll tell you the language. So they have actually not mentioned. Supposing if there's an error which is not material, it is not mentioned only that what you have to do in such a scenario. But I can tell you from my practical experience that this happened, this had happened. And in such a situation, because the error was not material, it was basically adjusted in the current year profit only. And it was so there was a big debate on this, actually, on what we should do with this particular thing, which is an immaterial error, but we need to correct this error. So it was actually so now so it's more on the practical side, which I'm telling you. To avoid complications, what was done was that it was charged to the current year depreciation. But if you look at the Ind AS and if you look at the reading of the Ind AS, you will find that they are giving you this thing that whatever this error is there, you can directly charge it to your equity. So you can directly charge it to you because it's a prior period expense, right? So at least for answering in your interview, what I feel the right answer for this is you can directly charge it to your equity if it's immaterial, right? Because there's nothing specifically mentioned. If it's a material thing, then you have to go for a restatement. So is it somewhat clear now?
Yes.
Okay. Defined benefit versus defined contribution. Very standard question, not a practical question. But we'll cover it. Can anyone explain quickly?
So mining rig needs dismantling
Okay,
question.
this one I missed. Mining rig needs dismantling. See, both this one and the next one. Both of these are straightforward questions, which you should be able to answer with your simple knowledge of Ind AS. So you can just mention. Anyone can try. कौन सा Ind AS लगेगा? What is the meaning?
Sir, mining rig needs dismantling. Ind AS 16 property, plant and equipment लगेगा.
Okay.
The present value of the future estimated demolishing cost का आज की वैल्यू पे लगना.
And वो क्या हो जाएगा? Capitalize हो जाएगा, and then you'll have to do the unwinding of that.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's a kind of decommissioning liability. As per
Exactly,
Ind AS.
it is decommissioning what is it called? DSR, we used to call it DSR or something like that.
Decommissioning and
Decommissioning
restoration cost.
restoration cost, right? So that is the concept being tested here. Okay, Anmol, you'd like to answer next one, defined benefit versus contribution?
Yes. So defined benefit and contribution, the major difference is the benefit is kind of a short-term benefit that the company is trying to provide to the employees. For example, bonus, which is a 1-year incentive. And to the contrary, defined contribution is a scheme in which the company contributes on a yearly basis, say, for example, a PF. So the difference in the accounting is the defined benefit company provides a provision on the basis of the performance of the employees and on the estimates. To the contrary to that, in defined contribution, the company also has a statutory liability in the form of PF, and then PF can also be of two types. So PF can be a private fund of the company as well, and even the public fund. So this was the brief difference between the
No,
both.
not really. You didn't cover the specific one. I think Tripura was wanting to answer this. Or Pankuri, you can go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Major difference between, sorry, can I go
Tripura,
ahead?
you can go ahead, yeah.
Sir, defined contribution and defined benefit plan, both are parts of actually post-employment benefits. See, defined contribution plan is where the contribution of employer is actually limited, where any further risk of falling in the value of those assets doesn't fall on the employer. Whereas in defined benefit plan, the benefit where the employee is getting at the end will be fixed. So any further risk will actually fall on the employer.
Right. So I'll just explain it again. You explained it. I'll just explain it again. Defined benefit means that defined benefit is if you know the concept that earlier there used to be a pension that once you retire, आपको हर महीने एक fixed income मिलेगी. You will supposing you are working in a government company or you're working in even in some of the older private companies, they are saying that you work till 60 and you don't worry about making any kind of savings and all that. We'll basically be giving you a pension, and this pension, so there's a fixed amount that will be given to the employee after he is retiring. So you have to benefit him. That benefit is fixed. Now in defined contribution, what happens is that the amount that is taken from the employee, that is fixed. Benefit is not fixed because now it will actually be collected into a pool, and उस pool से जो आपका जितना amount collect हो जाएगा उस pool से depending on whatever is there, you will be getting that amount. So here the critical aspect is that in defined benefit, the entire risk is on the employer. Why is it on the employer? Because whatever happens, I have to pay that employee this much amount of money per month every year till that person dies. And supposing depending on that policy, usually that pension is paid till that person and that person's spouse, both of them die. So, because after that, supposing if one of them dies, then the other person also continues getting it till they are alive. So, here defined benefit was proving to be very, very disadvantageous for the companies because because they made some kind of calculations that the person will live up to 70, that person will maybe live up to 75, but suddenly because of improving healthcare, people started living up to 80, 90, 100, and this entire calculation was starting to make a lot of creating problem. So most companies have shifted towards defined contribution. What is the risk? Risk is number one, how long the employee lives. So longer the employee lives, actually it is a disadvantage. So it is in purely financial terms, right? I'm not talking about the life terms, but in purely financial terms, jitna lamba employee ka life rahega, that is a disadvantage because that much additional expense will be there. And second thing is the investment risk, right? So because in both cases, there's a liability that आपको invest करना पड़ेगा in some kind of fund, and that fund will grow at a particular rate. So whatever the rate at which the fund grows, supposing it does not meet your expectation, right? So whatever your expectation is, let's say you are expecting that the person to live for 80 years, you are expecting that the return on that fund will be say 10%. So these are your expectation. Supposing this expectation changes, right? Actually is different from the expectation, then in defined benefit, the loss will be borne by the company. In defined contribution, the loss will be borne by the employee. So basically loss, or rather I should put it risk. It can happen both ways also. In both cases, supposing if the employee lives longer, that is one risk. If the investment returns lower than expected, that is the second risk. And यहाँ पे वो वाला difference आ जाएगा. ठीक है? This is a very, very important and common question. ये पक्का से you prepare it properly because this is asked everywhere. Right? Just like deferred tax asset versus deferred tax liability, what is the difference between these two? But most people are able to answer it, so इसलिए मैंने यहाँ पे cover नहीं किया. Right? Okay. This is a quite typical example of one particular index. Any answers?
India's 41.
41, right? So you'll have to record it at a fair value on the reporting date.
Less cost to sell.
Whatever is the difference, you'll have to pass it through profit and loss. Okay. Scooter example, let's see how much time we have. 1 minute.
5 2 minutes back.
Okay. So what we'll do is, okay, so I'll give you these cases one by one, and you just try answering them. I think we'll not be able to cover everything. So how should we do it? Do you want me to extend the session today only? Yeah, so we'll conduct another, let's say, because I think this will take
extend today only.
Today only, no? So I think then we can do that, right? Till 8, we can do it probably.
Yes, sir, no issues.
Okay, done. Okay, so you'll have to help me because I can't continuously speak for 4 hours. Na, thoda wo issue ho jayega. Otherwise, so I'll ask the question and you tell me the answer. Okay. Scooter example basically is this example that supposing there's a manufacturer of scooters, and earlier we used to sell scooters for, let's say, 1 lakh, and we used to give maintenance agreement along with that for 50,000. So we have a maintenance agreement of 3 years. Right, you just, and see, I'm not writing that example here. Why am I not writing it here? Because in an interview also, आपको ऐसे लिखा हुआ नहीं मिलेगा. In fact, I did not want to share this document here because interviewer बोलते जाएगा and आपको mentally या तो register करना पड़ेगा या आपको लिख के register करना पड़ेगा that these are the conditions that are being given. Right, so scooter example is this. I am selling a scooter for 1 lakh rupees and I am giving a maintenance arrangement for 3 years for 50,000. Now my sales team has come up to me and told me that people are not buying our scooters so much because they don't want to pay separately for this maintenance arrangement. So let us give them the maintenance arrangement free with the scooter, and we can increase the price of the scooter a bit. So we decided we'll give the scooter for 1,20,000, and with that, the person will get this 3-year maintenance contract too. So in this case, how much revenue should I recognize today when I'm selling the scooter for 1,20,000?
So we will bifurcate it on the basis of standalone prices.
Okay.
Scooter
Yes,
and
sir. More than non-performance obligation, we have to bifurcate the amount based on standalone price.
Okay, so both of you have given the same answer, which is the correct answer, that you have to bifurcate it based on standalone selling price. Can you give me the numbers too quickly? And better if you raise your hand and say, otherwise, thoda sa, that is the thing. Okay. Allocate on standalone selling price. Right, Tripura.
Sir, we allocate 80,000 for scooter and 40,000 for maintenance service.
40,000 you'll be recording over a period of 3 years.
Yes,
80,000
yes.
you'll be recording today.
Uh,
Airline example, usually now, airline example, I'll give you the example in a little complicated way because I want to cover several different aspects. In the real interview, they won't ask you such a complicated example, but I'll actually give that entire example here because 1 minute, just a minute. Or okay, fine. I'll just tell you the example. Supposing I booked the I'm using continuous dates so that you don't have any issue. I booked a ticket for my flight. I booked the ticket on 1st April. Okay, let's say I booked it on 1st April, and I paid 10% of the fare initially. Okay, I didn't pay the 100% of the amount. I paid 10% of the amount, which was non-refundable. Okay, so 10% was non-refundable. It was non-refundable. On 2nd, I paid remaining 90% of the amount, and on 3rd, my flight took off, and on 4th, my flight landed. Actually, there were some more conditions. Just let me see if I can find it. 1 minute. Okay, so basically, yeah. So I'll give the example in this way, that on 1st, I paid 10%. This amount was refundable up to 2nd. Okay, on 1st, I paid, let's say my flight was costing 10,000 rupees. I paid 1,000 rupees on 1st. This was refundable up to 2nd. On 2nd, my refund period expired. Okay, on 3rd, I paid remaining 90%. This 90% was refundable up to 4th. On 4th, this refund option also expired. On 5th, my flight was there. So it took off on 5th and it reached on 6th. Maybe it was, at 11 p.m. in the night, and on 6th it reached. So in all these dates which I have mentioned, which date will you record revenue from the airline's perspective?
Sir, I think we will record on the 5th when the performance obligation is met completely, and we have received the entire collection also, entire amount also.
Which date are you saying?
5th.
5th or 6th?
5th.
Okay. Dheeraj is saying 10% on 1st, 90% on 6th. Okay. So see, yes, Tarun.
But there are multiple elements in this performance obligation. First,
Okay.
first we book 10% on second of the day, then balance 90% on 4th, and this the remaining part on the 50th.
Your voice is not clear.
So 10% we will book 10% amount on the second, and the 90% amount on 4th. So we will book, that's how we book the revenue.
See, you follow one common rule because these questions get confusing. But the simple rule you have to follow for 115 Ind AS 115 is that till the performance obligation is met, you will never recognize revenue. So it doesn't matter whether you have received payment, it doesn't matter whatever has happened, whether the amount is refundable, non-refundable, whether anything has happened, whether you have received an order, whether you have not received an order, whether you have entered into a contract, because many different ways in which this can be done, that there's a signed contract. Then the second example will be signed contract is not there, but there's a verbal agreement. Agreement, contract, order, all these are never justification for recording revenue. Recording revenue will happen जब जो performance obligation है, whatever that you have to give, whenever that thing which you have to give, you have given that thing, then you can recognize revenue. So then it comes, whether it is whether your performance obligation is over a period of time or at a point of time. So in a period of time, you have this liberty that let's say it's a subscription thing. So आप हर महीने उसको देते जा रहे हो, even if your entire performance is not completed, since you are performing it over a continuous period of time, every month you are allowed to book revenue. So in this particular case, it is performance obligation at a point of time because it's just one flight. So it's at a point of time. And if you know the way in which airlines work, the performance obligation of the airline is complete only when you have landed at your destination. Let's take an example. Supposing if the airline is for any reason, the airline is not able to put you at your destination. There's some kind of rain. Let's say there's Hyderabad and Visakhapatnam. You had to go to Visakhapatnam, but because of rain at Visakhapatnam, they, let's say, dropped you at Hyderabad. It is the responsibility of the airline to now take you from Hyderabad to Visakhapatnam. So till the flight lands, you are not allowed to recognize any amount of your receipt as your revenue. So the entire revenue should be recognized only on 6th. Now there are some additional conditions. Supposing the revenue is not recoverable, so then you'll have to go to other conditions to see if you have, there's the collection is probable and all those things are there. But in this particular case, all that collection is probable and all that will not be there. When you have completed your performance obligation of dropping that passenger at its intended location, then your performance obligation is complete, and then you will record the entire revenue. And till then, whatever amount you have collected, whether it is refundable, whether it is non-refundable, in both cases, you will be recording it just as an advance received from the customer. Okay. Next is cables example. Cables example, I'll give you the example. Supposing is that I am an internet service provider. Okay, and internet service provider who, like, let's say Jio or whatever, whoever provides you internet. So what I've done is I have entered into an agreement with bigger internet service provider that they will be giving me 1 terabyte of they'll be giving me 1 terabyte of capacity. So what they've done is they have a giant cable which has a capacity of, let's say, 100 terabytes per second. From that, they have given me 10 terabytes per second. So now, can you tell me what should I do in this particular case? And I'm paying some amount to them. And this is a contract for 3 years. So what should I do in this particular case? Do I need to do anything? Okay, so I'll tell you. Okay, I'll repeat the question in a different way. Okay, you just forget the question. I'll repeat it so that it is more. It is reflected in a better way. Okay. I have entered into an agreement, right? This agreement is not. I am not the person who is selling. I'm the person who is buying. What am I buying? You have to tell it from my perspective. What am I buying? I am buying. Let's say the other person, right? My seller. Right, the person who I'm buying it from, that person has a cable. That cable has a capacity of 100 terabytes, and we have entered into an arrangement where 90 terabytes will be used by me, and I have entered into a contract for, let's say, a period of 3 years, and I'm paying some amount to that person. I'm paying an amount of 1 lakh per year to that person, and I will have to pay that for the next 3 years. So in this case, should I just record this 1 lakh per year as my expense? Yes, Pankudi.
This will be a right of use asset, and we will amortize it on the basis of our usage.
Right. So, and what is the reason? You're on mute if you're speaking.
I did not get the follow-up question. Can you please repeat?
No, what is the reason why you're treating it as a lease? Because this is actually an Ind AS 116 question, and
Yes.
Ind AS 116 was nowhere mentioned in the question. It was your responsibility to recognize it. So, why did you say that it should be recognized as a lease?
Because this is because this is like an intellectual property. We are taking the 1 terabyte on lease because it does not belong to us. We are taking it.
Okay. So let's say I change the example. Supposing if instead of 90 terabytes, I'm taking 20 terabytes out of this 100 terabytes, then what would be your answer?
I did not get it. Can you?
Okay. So here the capacity of that wire was 100 terabytes.
Okay.
Okay. I was taking 90 terabytes.
Okay.
Okay. So you said that it should be recognized as a lease. Now I'm changing the question and asking you that supposing if instead of 90, it was just 20, would your answer change or would it remain the same?
Yes, it will change because we don't have the substantial rights on that asset.
Right. So, if you are entering into an arrangement where substantially the whole of the asset you are using, in that case, you have to recognize it as a lease, or if it's identifiable. So, it has to be identifiable. So, I have been able to recognize that this is the particular cable that is there, and I'm using substantially the whole of it. In that case, it becomes a lease. If I was not using substantially the whole of it, I'm using just a I'm having just a usage agreement. In that case, it is not a lease. Now I'll give you another example. Supposing within that wire, so okay, it's not just one wire. There are actually 10 wires within that, within that giant cable. And my agreement is that one particular cable is being allotted to me and I'm paying for that particular cable. In this case, what will you do?
This will be a lease as well.
Again, why?
Because it's identifiable from the 10
Because it is
different
identifiable.
cables.
Absolutely right. So now, because it is not an arrangement for capacity, so there are two parts. First is there's an arrangement where I'm using a capacity. So where I'm just using a capacity, then I have to see whether I'm using substantially the whole of the capacity. If I'm using substantially the whole of the capacity, then it is a lease. Otherwise, it is not a lease. Supposing it is an agreement for capacity, and then the asset is identifiable. So if the asset is identifiable and I'm using that asset, then again it will be a lease, even though there could be other assets which are there. Now, supposing the agreement is such that I have been allotted a cable, but the person with whom I have this agreement, that person is saying that, see, it won't affect you, but I need to, continuously make changes because I keep getting customers and keep losing customers. So at any point, I can, swap your one cable with some other cable. It will not be affecting you, but I can do that at any time. It will not be affecting the services that you are getting. And I'm saying, okay, fine, that's not a problem for me. So in this case, what will you do? In this case, not a lease, because here that person is having a substantial right of substitution. What you can ask the interviewer in this case is that the substantial right of substitution should have some commercial, should be what is that term? Should be commercially feasible, something like that, right? So if the substantial right of substitution exists in substance, in that case, it is not a lease. If that right is not there, in that case, it is a lease. Okay, commercial substance, right? If that has commercial substance, okay. So I would suggest for Ind AS 115, 116, because these are important ones. Whichever teacher you have studied this portion from in CA final, just see the revision lecture. Usually it will be covered in, let's say, 3 or 4 hours. For example, I think if you don't have a teacher like that, you can use Sarthak Jain videos, which I had used earlier. So you can use that, or you can use your own this one, and it is a better idea. Supposing if you are not very comfortable with these topics, it is not for all Indians, but especially for 115, 116. Okay. Now, okay. Next is mall example. So let's say I have taken a shop on rent in a mall, and I went to this person who was I went to the owner of the mall. For the sake of simplicity, let's say that the owner of the mall is the owner of the shop. Usually that's not the case, but let's say I went to this owner and I told this person that, look, I want to take this shop on rent. And he told me that, okay, you can take the shop on rent for 1 lakh rupees per month. So I said, look, I'm just starting out, paying 1 lakh will be difficult. So he said, okay, fine, you don't pay 1 lakh, you pay 50,000 plus 20% of your revenue. So I said, okay, this looks better. So I entered into this agreement. Now, so I entered into this agreement of 50,000 rent plus 20% of my revenue. And the contract was of, let's say, 5 years. Now, supposing I paid a rent of 70,000 in the first month, I paid a rent of, say, 80,000 in the second month. Eventually, let's say after 9 months, because my shop was doing well, I was paying a rent of, say, 1,30,000 a month. So in this case, what should I do? How much should I recognize as lease? Should I recognize 50,000 as my lease amount? Should I recognize whatever amount I am paying? Let's say 60,000, 70,000, whatever I am paying as my lease. Should I recognize 1 lakh as my lease? Because 1 lakh is the alternate which I had. What should I do? Yes, Akash.
So 50,000 we will deal it like a lease, and rest 20% whatever we are paying, we will straightforward charge it to PNL every year.
And why is that?
So because it's just like an interest or rent, we can say. It's a kind of rent, that 20, because it is every year changing. It depends on revenue. So
Right. So because it's a variable consideration, right? That term is there. It's a variable consideration, and whatever is variable consideration, I will not be considering that as my part of lease. Okay. Now, supposing instead of varying based on revenue, I'm saying that it will vary based on inflation. So in that case, what will you be doing? I'm saying that every month we will look at the cost price inflation and we will adjust the rent based on that. Then we will take both, right? So supposing the adjustment is purely on account of things like inflation, in that case, you will be taking that as a part of your lease. You will be including both as a lease. There's a third scenario. Supposing you are saying that we want to
Hello.
adjust the rent based on the stock market index. So supposing if Nifty goes up, we'll increase the rent. If Nifty goes down, we'll decrease the rent. In this case, what will you do? Okay, so here again that portion. Okay, can I explain the inflation example again? Okay, so in inflation, there's actually a specific provision within Ind AS 116 that supposing if the variable consideration, right? So first provision is that jahan pe bhi variable consideration aa raha hai, that variable consideration will not be treated as part of your lease. But there is a, you can say, provision, or there's a exclusion to that. Wo exclusion ye hai that supposing the variable consideration is variable only on account of inflation linked index. I think that is the term used. It is only on account of an inflation rate, inflation linked index. In that case, it will not be considered as a variable. My voice is clear? I got a call, that's why. Okay.
Yes,
so in that case, it will be treated as a lease. Then third thing is third question which I asked, which is like stock market index. So in case of stock market index, it will again be treated as variable because as far as I remember the language, only an inflation linked index will be considered as a fixed component if that thing is linked to something else. Let's say it is linked to revenue, or it is linked to the stock market, or it is linked to something else. In that case, it will not be considered as a fixed lease. It will become a variable lease. Okay. Is my video clear? It is hanging a little, I think. Video is clear, no?
Yes, sir. Audio video
Yes,
both
sir.
are
Oh,
Clear.
next is Amazon example. Amazon example. What was the example? Right. So supposing if I am a seller on Amazon and I have a policy where customers can where I am, let's say, what is the question? Right, only inflation and one linked with CPI. So supposing if it's linked to inflation, in that case it becomes a fixed component of the lease. Amazon, right? So supposing I'm a seller on Amazon and I have a refund policy of 7 days. So supposing I get the order today, right? I get the order on 10th. I dispatch the goods from my premises, from my warehouse on 15th. It reaches the customer on 20th, and the refund and the customer has full freedom to refund that without any questions till 25th. Okay, so at what point should I recognize my revenue?
On
Okay,
25th.
who is speaking?
So Megha. So
Yes, Megha.
because of our performance obligation will meet on 25th, so on 25th we will recognize the revenue.
Okay, you hear the question again. 10th, I'm getting the order. Okay, and let's say 10th only I'm getting the payment. Okay, so that first part we've already covered. None of you will say that 10th is the right date, but I dispatched it on 15th. It was delivered on 20th, and till 25th there were the customer could refund. Okay, so you are saying that my performance obligation was fulfilled on 25th.
Sir, performance obligation will fulfill on 20th, but our certainty of cash flow realization will be till on 25th. So on 25th we will recognize the revenue.
Okay, so here Harsh has given the answer that see, my PO will be satisfied. This PO satisfaction, because I'll tell you what the problem with what that will happen in the case where you are saying. So you are saying if we consider 25th as the date on which we are booking revenue, what will happen to my inventory? Because my inventory has already reached the customer and वो customer के पास inventory पड़ा हुआ है. So should I treat it as basically that all the benefits of that inventory have already transferred to that customer on 20th itself. So now it will not be right to postpone my revenue till 25th. So on 20th only I will be recording my revenue. Again, here also, supposing if I am responsible for transporting, for ensuring that the goods reach the customer. Supposing if I am responsible for that, in that case, I will recognize it on 20th. Supposing if I am not responsible for transportation, in that case, 15th को ही मैं recognize कर लूँगा because I have lost control of the goods and I have in a way, transferred the goods to that next person in the chain on 15th only. So I will recognize it on that date only. So 15th or 20th will depend on that. But regarding the refund part, right? So on the refund part, we'll have to recognize a refund liability. So I will have to see that in the past, what is the normal level of refunds which I'm getting. Supposing whatever refund rate is there, supposing 5%, 10%, that amount of refund I will have to recognize as I will have to postpone it, or I will have to not recognize it as revenue. I will have to recognize it as a refund liability, and that will be shown as a liability.
Okay, sir.
Okay, can we deal with sale or return basis? See, sale or return basis, it's a different thing. So sale, so again, this depends a lot on your nature of agreement. Supposing I randomly I am sending things to customers on consignment basis. So this was the problem which was there earlier. Earlier, you wouldn't know, like when to recognize revenue. So supposing if I am treating it like a sale or return basis, that I just send that goods to my customer saying that if you want to keep it, you can keep it, and obviously you will have to pay me. If you don't want it, you can return it. So even in this case, what I should do is I should take into account my expectation of refund, because the goods have been given to the customer. Supposing if I am able to I am a seller where I am able to ensure that most of those things ultimately get sold, then it is fine to recognize that as revenue. Supposing if I am having a very, very high refund rate for these sale or return transactions, then I will have to book a refund liability. So the nature of the contract doesn't matter so much, whatever is written in the agreement. My expectation of refund is what matters. How much percentage? How much percentage? It depends. It is again an accounting estimate on how much would you recognize as refund liability. Generally, you would see your own data. That supposing I'm selling 100 goods, what is the percentage of refund which I'm getting? If I'm not having that data, then I'll probably look at my competitors, or I'll look at whatever other data is available. See, the point of collection of data is a different issue. That मेरे को कहाँ से वो data मिलेगा, that कितना percentage refund liability recognize करना है. But this is a thing where I will have to make an accounting estimate. Accounting estimate will be based on best available data जो भी है. So if it's my data, then I can use that. If it's not my data, then I can use someone else's data. ठीक है?
Sir, but refund liability we will recognize on different dates. Na? Like item is sold on different dates. So we cannot create refund liability for like entire month or like that.
See, refund liability or many of these adjustments that you make in Ind AS, वो आपको खाली period end पे करना है. So refund liability, you don't need to recognize it every day. It is usually because see, supposing if आपने during there कुछ भी बेचा है, खरीदा है, it is fine. You can normally continue recognizing it as revenue as and when you are selling it. At the period end, because बहुत सारे adjustment, whether it is a lease adjustment, whether it is Ind AS 16 adjustment, whether it is a depreciation entry, all these things anyway you're doing at year end only. So at year end you will see that okay, the number of orders for which this refund period has not expired है ना. मेरे को दिख रहा है कि मेरा I have sold 100 units, and these 100 units, for these 100 units, the refund period has not yet expired. So maybe 5 more days are remaining for the refund period to expire. So now I know, based on my past experience, that these 100 sales that are there, let's say, which are there's a possibility of return on these 100 sales which have been made as on 31st March. So as on 31st March, ये वाले जो sales transaction है, where there's a possibility of refund, I will be booking a refund liability. Okay. Okay. So this particular example is done. Ind AS is mostly done. We'll have some more other, here and there कुछ questions आते रहेंगे Ind AS पे. Right. So we'll be covering those. We'll just cover some different type of questions now. Grandfathering clause versus sunset clause. Does anyone know what these two clauses mean? Yes, Pradeep.
Sir, actually, I know about that grandfathering clause. First time I heard about this in Vodafone case law, because our government
Audio is
wanted
not
at any
very
cost
clear.
to recover the tax. Sir, am I audible now?
Just a minute. Is he audible to rest of you, or is it
Low, it is low.
low, right? Can you speak closer to the mic?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Actually, in Vodafone case law, I read about this grandfathering clause. Means
Not
whatever
clear,
the
Pradeep.
amendment.
You can just type it in the chat because your audio is very, very low. And just try to fix it because real interview में नहीं होना चाहिए. So just try to. Okay. Anyone else? Grandfathering versus sunset? Okay. So grandfathering clause is any clause. No, Vodafone is different. In Vodafone case, there is neither grandfathering nor sunset, as far as I know.
So, if if there is a long-term capital gain on sale of, so is that related to section 112A now?
You're right. That is the typical example for grandfathering clause. But what is the concept behind grandfathering clause? So example of grandfathering clause, you've given the correct example where 1112A capital gains was introduced.
Yes. So,
right.
So I know.
Okay. So I'll give you the conceptual meaning for grandfathering clause and sunset clause. Grandfathering clause means that supposing there's a change in tax law. For example, earlier capital gains was exempt, completely exempt. Long term capital gains, there was no this thing ki 1 lakh tak exempt rahega, uske baad taxable rahega. All these things were not there. It was completely exempt. And then in 2018, on 1st Feb, when the budget was announced, they said ki from now onwards, capital gains is taxable, long term capital gains is taxable. So what will the taxpayer say? Taxpayer will say that, look, I was holding shares with the presumption that mujhe tax nahi lagega, right? You told me that I will not be taxed, and because of this I had purchased these shares. I'm not talking about the future, I'm talking about the past. So in the past I had accumulated some capital gains, and on those capital gains I should not be made to pay taxes. So grandfathering clause is any provision which is made to protect the decisions taken by investors or by anyone, right? It is meant to protect the decision taken by anyone before the law was announced. So law announcement के पहले किसी ने भी अगर shares खरीदे हैं, the gains that they had accumulated previously, those gains should not be taxed. And if you look at the provision also, it's this, that the fair market value on 1st February 2018 will be taken, and that is considered as a cost of acquisition. Reason is this, that you want to exempt the gains that people have done up to 1st February 2018. So grandfathering clause is to protect the previous ones from the change that has been from the new change that has been brought. Sunset clause, can anyone tell me an example of sunset clause? Again, income
I
tax
think-
में ही हुआ है ये वाला.
I think 80 IA or something.
Taxation on startups.
80 IA.
Right. Many of these benefits that are being given. So sunset clause is basically कि कोई आपने provision डाला हुआ है, there's some benefit that you're giving to the taxpayers, but you want to discontinue it in future. So instead of saying that I'm discontinuing it from tomorrow, you say that I will be discontinuing it from, let's say, 10 years later from today, or 15 years from today, because again, you don't want to inconvenience the people who are taking the decisions today, and you want to give a smooth exit to people who have taken the benefit of this clause, or who want to take the benefit of this in the future. Because what will the people say? That, look, because of this 80IA provision, I raised money from the investors, or I took debt, or I did so many things, and I wanted to set up a startup. And today you are saying that you want to end all these provisions that will cause such a disadvantage to me. So they are saying that, okay, we are giving you enough time that now 10 years from today, this provision will not be there. And whatever decision you want to take now, you can take it. Okay. Okay. Just a minute. Okay. This is not a technical question, but this is a question that is often asked in many finance interviews, especially. So any answers on this? Doesn't require technical knowledge, just requires your thinking ability. Dictate the definition of both in 1 or 2 lines. Okay. Grandfathering clause, if I talk about the definition, grandfathering clause means that you are basically, how should I put it in 1 line? You are, in a way, ensuring that the new provision, right? You are introducing a clause that ensures that the new provisions are applicable only to new decisions that are taken. So your change in law is not affecting the previous decision. Basically, grandfathering is when you don't want the change in law today to affect the past decisions taken by anyone, right? Basically, retrospective effect aap nahi dena chahte. So that is the thing where you don't want any change in law to have retrospective effect. For that purpose, you are introducing a grandfathering clause. Sunset clause is where you are phasing out a law over a period of time. So like a sunset, because आपका sunset हो रहा है, तो धीरे you can see from now only, you can see, like at 5 p.m. I can see that, okay, the sun is setting, so I can take my decisions accordingly. Suddenly it is not that suddenly the sun is switching off, right? Suddenly if the sun switches off, it will cause a lot of problem to people, right? So I can see the sun setting, and that is why I can see that this provision is going to be finished in the next 10 years. I can accordingly take my decisions today. Okay. Yes, this one anyone can answer. Whistleblower. Okay. Simple है, मतलब it's not a complicated one. If you can just try. Okay, so I'll answer it. Right. So you have to first see that what is the nature of the complaint, and you have to take a few steps to know that first of all you have to protect the identity of this person. Second, you have to independently verify that whether this is true. How will you independently verify? You will do some sort of inquiries with other contractors, right? So एक ने बोला कि ये kickback ले रहा है. It is possible, it is very likely that he would be doing the same with others. So you will do some kind of informal inquiries. You could do another thing where you could pretend to be a supplier. So it depends on the organization policy. You have to see that what is the organization policy. And okay, so let's take a structured approach to this answer. You have to see what is the organization policy and what is the level of reporting, what is my level. So supposing if I'm a senior person who has to do the entire investigation, then I will be doing all these steps. Supposing if it's a case where I'm not that senior a person, then I will have to report it to my seniors, whoever is the right person, and then I'll have to let them take the decision. Supposing they are not taking the decision, or supposing I am the decision maker, right? So now the second case arises where supposing they are not taking the decision and or I am the decision maker. In that case, you have to investigate into the correctness of these allegations. वो आप कैसे करोगे? You will ask other suppliers. You could do become a mock supplier and try to get this. Then there are other ways, other indicators which reflect कि यहाँ पे कुछ fraud हो रहा है, which could be living beyond their means. उसकी salary 25,000 है, but वो हर महीने घूमने जा रहा है कहीं. So all those things will give an indication that this person is getting money from somewhere else. So supposing all these indications are there, I will try to form an opinion on my own, and then based on that opinion, I will report at appropriate levels. And एक जो आपका, you can also mention your let's say knowledge of company law in this, that in all listed companies there is a whistleblowing mechanism. So all listed companies have to make a whistleblowing policy. I will see the policy that is there for whistleblowers, and there's a vigil mechanism. वहाँ पे जो vigil mechanism होता है, usually it is headed by the audit committee. So if no one else in the chain is taking action, and I still feel that यहाँ पे गलत हो रहा है, then I will take this step of reporting it to the audit committee. Okay. Get quotation, and see, this is again, you can get some more examples. See questions like this, you can easily put it in chat GPT. आपको बहुत अच्छा structured, इतना अच्छा answer मिल जाएगा. You will get it much better than what I am telling you. ठीक है? How will you estimate the number? Yes.
There was like audit committee chairman or people only were involved in that. How do we deal with that kind of situation?
Okay, so in that case, see, यहाँ पे then, frankly speaking, this is not a so you have to यहाँ पे you have to look at the criminal side, that एक what is the criminal implication of this, because एक जो prevention of corruption act जो है, right, that is not applicable on private companies, so that thing will not be applicable here. That is part one. But again, you will say that what are my responsibilities and obligations as a CA? What is the value of the fraud? Supposing if the value of the fraud is I think 1 crore, right? Then I have to report it. Then there's an obligation for me to report it to the central government. Then I will report it to the that is obligation that is there. And depending on the seriousness and depending on the situation, if I feel that there is a major fraud that is happening, then I will report to various authorities. आप बता सकते हो. You can report it to the police, you can report it to ROC, you can report it to SEBI in case of a listed company. Depends on the quantum and depends on your situation, and depends again on how much evidence you have. So supposing आपके पास बहुत strong evidence है, then you can definitely become a whistleblower against the company at SEBI, and SEBI also has some whistleblower protections that are there. Right? Okay. How will you estimate number of hair oil users in your locality? This is a typical guesstimate question. Guesstimate question में क्या होता है? कुछ भी आपको बोल देंगे. Estimate करो कोलकाता में साइकिल कितने लोग चला रहे हैं. Estimate करो whatever. I mean any question they can give. Here the approach is very simple and standard. you have to, whatever the question they're asking, generally you have to start with the population. What is the population of that region? Then you have to divide it based on whatever category. है ना, यहाँ पे answer being right is not so important. You have to show that there is some structure in your approach. So you will start with, say, the population. You will say that, okay, for hair oil users, we will have to divide this into categories based on age. We can divide it into categories based on the financial status or the economic status of the people. And you can take any assumptions, any reasonable assumptions. You can say that, okay, 20% of people are, let's say, 0 to 10. So they will be using, so within that, they would be using baby oil in the 0 to 5 years category. From 5 to 15 years, maybe the oil users would not be so many. So 0 to 5 years, there are, let's say, 50% hair oil users. From this category, this is the percentage. From this category, this is the percentage. And you can attribute rough numbers that I feel that 0 to 5 in that bracket, 10% of the population is from 0 to 5 years, 10% of the population is from 5 to 15 years, 10% of the population is from this bracket, this bracket, this bracket. So आपने वो पूरा table बना लिया. Then you say this percentage from this age group will be using, this percentage from this age group will be using, and you add all that and you will get the number. वो number बिल्कुल incorrect होएगा, उसका कोई meaning नहीं है. And I also don't know why they asked this question, but इसको ऐसे आंसर करना है, right? So or you can try to do it based on economic strata, whatever is more relevant. अगर आपको लग रहा है economic strata के basis पे analysis will be better, you categorize it based on middle income, poor, rich, वो वाला category करके you can basically estimate the market size. So वो यहाँ से हो जाएगा, ठीक है? हाँ, management consulting here. This is exactly a management consulting question. Guesstimate they ask, and this is but they have asked this. In fact, this particular question, hair oil users, this is the Marico question, which because they are selling parachute, so उनका ये question था basically. Next question is this is again okay. So this one, who will answer? Easy question, but everyone should know. Yes, Akash.
It's a component accounting
Component
question.
account.
Here we will recognize the new magnetron and de-recognize the carrying value of the magnetron which we are replacing.
Right. So component accounting, many questions can come. It can come, you have an airplane and you are replacing the jet engine in that, same answer, right? So you'll have to know what is the pattern. Now, these are questions which I don't need to tell you. I'm just quickly covering them. TDS latest amendments, you need to study whatever has happened. So TDS, CARO, GST, Companies Act, any of these acts, GST, income tax, not every amendment you need to know, but any important amendment. Say recently, there was an amendment, I think, in section 147, and there was some new section also, 148A was introduced. So all these new amendments you have to cover. And just like, exams also, amendments are given more importance. You see the amendment lecture. I'll tell you the problem with amendment lecture of that is there on YouTube, because they are actually giving the amendment lecture which is applicable to the exam. But in your case, you need to know, अगर एक महीने पहले भी कोई amendment आया, you need to know that amendment. So that is the only place where this amendment lecture will not work. But otherwise, I would suggest that you watch the amendment lecture for GST, income tax. You can get it for any of the CA final teachers, and then you just see कि उसका cutoff date क्या था. So for example, I think the revision lectures which are available now, they are probably उनका cutoff date वो चल रहा है, October 2022 चल रहा है. So from October 2022 till today, whatever amendment has happened, you'll have to study additionally. So TDS, CARO, Income Tax, Companies Act, just you'll have to cover that. Then there are some questions on all these GK kind of questions. What is India's forex reserve? What was the GST collection of last month? What is the GDP growth rate? What is the meaning of GDP? What is India's GDP? What is US GDP? What is China GDP? All those things. Is ESOP tax deductible? So there's a case law, Biocon versus this DCIT. ESOP is tax deductible. A difference between marginal costing, standard costing, absorption. Anyone can answer this? Okay. Simple question actually. Marginal costing means that you have to only take the incremental cost, you have to take the variable cost, whatever is and the usage of marginal costing is for decision making. You want to know whether my one additional order which I am fulfilling, or one additional unit which I am making, what is the cost for this I will be getting in marginal costing. Absorption costing, you have to also know the purpose. So marginal costing ka purpose is decision making. It could be pricing a new contract. It could be, deciding how to give volume discounts. All these things you can cover in is the purpose of marginal costing. You will not generally use marginal costing for inventory valuation purpose, because inventory valuation jab aap kar rahe ho, you should preferably, in fact, even as per Ind AS, you have to use an accounting system where your fixed and variable costs both are included in your inventory valuation. Absorption costing is a method of allocating your fixed cost onto your inventory. So you take a reasonable basis and you use it. You can do it based on machine hours, you can do it based on number of units, whatever, basically, but you're allocating it. Standard costing is, again, it is used for decision making, but it is also used for, basically the purpose is to know what is the variance. You have a standard, you have some budgeted costs, and the purpose of standard costing is to know whether your actual cost is meeting your budgeted cost, or whatever is your actual is meeting your budgeted. So for variance analysis, you will do this standard costing, right? So that is the broad level difference between all these. Okay, this, can someone give me the answer? This thing, sorry, this. Okay.
Sir, if the modification is done by the lessee, then we will incorporate in lease payment, the lease modification amount.
Okay. So lease modification is a completely different concept. Lease modification means I'm not modifying the building. Lease modification means I am modifying the lease. So jab agreement change ho raha hai, that is lease modification. Here the question is that I am making modification to the building. So I have taken a building on lease today, and then I am making some changes. I'm adding some furniture. I'm doing some painting, and I will use it for 4 months. From 4 months later, should I recognize the lease from today, or should I recognize it from 4 months later when I actually start using it? Yes, Akash.
The lease we will recognize today only, and the modification we will do, maybe we will recognize a asset for it.
Right. So modification we will recognize it as an asset, whatever the cost is, depending, again, wo to, that is in Ind AS 16. Supposing Ind AS 16 conditions are being met, then I will record it, I will capitalize it, otherwise I will not. But the main point here is that even if I've taken, even if I'm going to use from later on, if I've taken it on lease from today, then I will basically have to recognize the lease from today only, even if I don't start using it. Okay. I have given a security deposit for my office premises. What should I do?
Repeat about the modification part.
What are you saying, Vijay?
About modification amount.
Okay, modification amount. Supposing you are incurring any expenditure on that particular building. So if it is meeting the criteria, things like future economic benefit, it is measurable in value, all those conditions which are there in Ind AS. Supposing I have estimated life, it will generally be capitalized as per Ind AS 16. But supposing if I'm planning to vacate that premises after 1 year or something like that, in that case, it will not be. But in 99% cases, if you are making modification and having incurring expenditure on that, even if it is a leased premises, it will be your asset only. Okay.
Security deposit is discounted based on the.
Right. So security deposit, usually, let's say it is interest free. So interest free security deposit रहेगा, वो आपको discount करना पड़ेगा, and you have to, what will you do with that amount? You will discount it. How will you record the difference?
As the lease only, it will be part of lease.
As a
financial, not very sure.
I didn't understand. What did you say?
Not sure, sir. Not sure.
Okay. So here, two parts are there.
Sir, one will be prepaid lease component, and
the remaining will be recognized as lease.
Can you repeat?
Sir, the differences will be recognized as lease and the मतलब एक तो prepaid हो जाएगा और
क्या prepaid हो जाएगा?
सर जो भी differences आएगा ना वो prepaid lease है यहाँ पर.
Okay. See here there will be two parts. Okay, let's say that I have given a security deposit for 1 lakh. ठीक है, 1 lakh का security deposit दिया है.
Sir, PB will be that lease part and that the differences will be that मतलब prepaid amount.
Prepaid amount what? What will be the what will
Prepaid
be that?
prepaid lease. नहीं, I am confused. Sorry.
Okay, okay. Difference will be prepaid and amortized over the period. Amortized as what? Tarun, can you explain what are you saying?
Sir, the difference amount, difference between the present value of security deposit, that the difference amount will be prepaid lease rent, and we will charge to the P&L over the period of time.
Anything else you'll have to do for this?
We will also record finance income.
Finance income. So you've covered both aspects. So I'll explain it with an example. Supposing if I've given a security deposit of 1 lakh for 5 years, and the present value of that security deposit is 90,000. This 10,000, I will have two implications for this. First will be that I will recognize it as a lease expense or as a lease cost, as additional lease cost. Second thing, it will become a finance income, whatever income I'm adding. So every year I'll be adding my interest onto this 90,000 and I will bring it to 1 lakh. This interest will become my income. Okay, I'll just see if that other question. Okay, I'll ask that other question here itself. Okay, employee loan question. Okay, so this is again going to be an interesting example. Not clear. Good. So I'll tell you why I said it's not clear. In the next example, it will become very clear. Okay. Let's say that I have taken I have an employee, right? This answer will cover cover both of these. Okay. So let's say I have an employee. I have given that employee a loan of 50,000 and it's an interest-free loan. Okay, so it's an interest-free loan. I've given it to my employee. After 5 years, he will be repaying it. In this case, what should I do? Okay, so any answers?
We will recognize prepaid employee benefit expense and we will expense it over the year.
Can you explain the journal entry? Let's say that the present value of this loan is 40,000. Yes, Magesh, you can go ahead.
So we will pass enter like है ना prepaid employee benefit expense account debit. Hello. To loan given to employees to bank account, and the loan given.
Who is speaking? I can't see. Vijay, you are speaking or Magesh is speaking?
Sir, I was speaking
there. Okay.
We will pass entry like है ना prepaid employee cost account debit and loan account debit to bank account.
With
and,
amount?
Prepaid like the difference will be the prepaid. Like you told that the present value 14,000.
Suppose its present value is 40,000. Yeah.
The 14,000 will be like that loan given to employee.
Okay.
And what is the full amount total?
Total is 50,000.
50. Then 10 will be the employee benefit expense, prepaid employee benefit expense, and the total bank to bank will be 50,000.
Okay. Magesh, can you explain from here?
Yes, sir. From the amount of prepaid will be amortized over the period of loan amount. For example, you said that 10,000 will be amortized for the period of 5 years.
Yes.
Sir, you are hearing me? Am I audible?
Your voice is actually low.
Okay, next then we will charge interest from the next year. The loan amount will be interest will be charged on the loan amount and will be credited to the P&L account.
Interest will be charged. Will interest be an expense or an income?
No, it was an income. We will put an entry like we are receiving income from the loan, and it will be credited to the P&L. Expense will be amortized over the period of loan term.
Okay, so you've mentioned it correctly only, but I'll still just explain it with the example. Supposing, so I'll repeat the example again. 50,000 loan has been given. And present value of that loan is 40,000. Okay, and so present value of that loan is 40,000. Duration of that loan is 5 years. Now, this 10,000 will have implications at two places. One will be that whatever is the nature of the expense, right? Why am I, first of all, let us understand it conceptually. Why am I giving an interest-free loan to my employee? The only it is not that I have some kind of, some special love or affection towards my employee. I'm giving it because it is because they are working for me, and I'm giving it as a part of the benefits which I'm giving it, right? So whatever the market rate of interest that I'm losing because of whatever opportunity cost I'm losing because of giving this interest-free loan, that the reason why I'm incurring this loss is because I want to give some benefit to my employee. So employee benefit expense has to be recorded. This 10,000 that I'm losing, right? I'm losing 10,000 rupees straight away because I'm giving out 50,000 rupees as an interest-free loan. Supposing if I had given it on market rate, then I would have given 40,000 rupees, and I would have got back 50,000 rupees 5 years later, right? That is the reason why present value is 40,000 and future value is 50,000. This 10,000 is an expense for me because I will be basically, I'm paying it to this employee. I'm not literally paying it, but I'm incurring this amount. So 2,000 I will be amortizing over this period of 5 years as employee benefit expense. If I just talk about the journal entry, so it will be employee loan account debit 40,000, prepaid employee benefit expense 10,000, to bank account 50,000, right? So this will be the first entry. And then every year, prepaid employee benefit expense debit to prepaid employee benefit expense 2,000. I will be transferring it to PL. Second part will be that I need to recognize income. Why do I need to recognize income? Because I have given a loan. And now, since I've said that all my loans, I will never give an interest-free loan. All my loans for accounting purposes, I will have to recognize interest income on them. And because this particular loan is, I've already taken into account this employee benefit expense, I also have to take into account the interest income. So then that unwinding concept comes in. Unwinding concept, how does it come in? Because this 40,000 loan, I will be adding interest every year to this amount. The entry will be simple. Your, this employee loan account debit. Is it? Yeah. Employee loan account, I will basically be adding, right? Yeah. So employee loan account debit to interest income, whatever, let's say the interest rate was 10%, 8%, whichever I used, right? So I will be adding that every year. And at the end of 5 years, this employee loan account will reach your 50,000 rupees, and then that person will repay me. So everything will be balanced out. So two aspects are covered here. One is your employee benefit expense. Second aspect is your finance income that is coming in. Overall, both of these two, the total of employee benefit expense is also 10,000. The total of interest income is also 10,000 over the period of 5 years. Now the question will be, why are we doing this entire process? Ultimately, it is not affecting the PL in the long term. Two reasons. First reason is that there is a timing difference because in the initial years, my interest expense or rather interest income will be slightly lower because मैं 40,000 पे interest लगाऊंगा. Then on that 40,000 added to that the interest in the next year again the interest will increase a little more. Next year again the interest will increase a little more because my employee loan amount is increasing. So that is one reason why there will be slight differences. Maybe in the first year my interest income would be probably 1,800. In the next year it will be 1,900. In the next year it will be 2,000, 2,100, 2,020, 2,200. Overall, my interest income becomes 10,000. My employee benefit expense becomes 10,000. So on a yearly basis, there's a slight difference in my profit. Second reason, which is the bigger reason, which is the more important reason, is that I need to know what is my true employee cost. I cannot disguise my employee cost by giving all these extra benefits to my employees. Let us take the example of two IT companies. say Wipro and Infosys. So in all these companies, they track employee cost. So supposing if Wipro says that my employee cost as a percentage of my revenue is 30%, and Infosys says that my employee cost as a percentage of my revenue is just 25%, people will give a higher valuation to Infosys, even though their profit could be the same, right? So this is the way in which external investors are tracking that, okay, employee cost iski kam hai, so we should give it this benefit. But now, what can a company do? They can actually structure the CTC in this manner, saying that we'll give you a lot of interest-free loans, or we'll give you some other benefits, which they will not be reflecting in your employee cost. They will be in a way, disguising that expense and not reflecting it in the employee cost. So to prevent this entire concept of disguising your employee cost, whatever is the true cost that you are paying to your employees, that has to be recognized in your employee benefit expense, and jo bhi uska income, interest income hai, that also has to be recognized. So correct categorization of expenses is taking place because of this entire concept. Now, same thing is applicable for the security deposit for office premises. Supposing you're giving an interest-free deposit to someone for your office premises. Why are you doing it? You are incurring some loss by giving this interest-free deposit. This loss you are agreeing to incur because you want that office premises, right? So ye wali cost jo hai, this cost is being incurred because you want to occupy that office premises, because you want to take the benefit of that office premises. So whatever is the cost that is being incurred on account of this interest-free security deposit, that you will be booking it as part of your lease payment or your rent payment, or whatever is, whichever head this particular expense is going in. And same thing you will be doing, just like this employee loan, you will also be recognizing the equivalent amount of finance income. So are these two questions clear now?
Sir, can you please give a journal entry for the security deposit part? Initial journal entry.
Initial journal entry would be first would be security deposit. Let's say it's the same example. 50,000 is the entire amount of security deposit. Period is 5 years. And my, let's say my present value is 40,000. So security deposit to landlord, debit 40,000. Prepaid office rent expense or office lease expense, debit 10,000. To bank account 50,000. Next, this prepaid office rent expense, you will be amortizing it over a period of 5 years. So office rent expense debit or office lease expense debit, whichever you are putting it. Office rent expense debit to prepaid office rent expense 2,000. This will be doing it every year for the next 5 years. Same, and unwinding interest is the same thing. This 40,000 security deposit that you've given, you will debit that. So debit office, office security deposit expense account, office security deposit account. You are debiting it to interest income. Every year you are adding the interest, and it is accumulating. At the end of 5 years, it will become 50,000, and you will receive this 50,000 back from your landlord. Advance lease income. Lessee will record difference as prepaid. There cannot be lease income as a lessee. I don't have any asset at all, right? मेरा तो asset ही नहीं है, तो मेरा lease income आ ही नहीं सकता. I will always be recording it as my prepaid lease rent only. Is that clear? Okay. Any answers for? I hope this part is clear. I explained it in much more detail. I hope both of these are clear. For lesser, see, lesser को कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा है, right? So for lesser, the accounting is completely independent of the accounting that this person is doing. For lesser, what will they do? For lesser also, you are right. I think, I mean, it is a good question for lesser. What will it be done? See, technically and logically, logically speaking, it should be recognized as a lease income. But I can't recall an Ind AS provision which allows you to recognize a lease expense, which allows you to recognize an interest expense and then it is, allowing you to recognize it as a lease income, right? So this is something I'll have to check up, right? So I'll actually write it here. Okay. Okay, I'll just, I'll try to research on this and I'll add the effect here, right? Logically, I think what you're saying is right, but from India's perspective, I'll have to answer this. Okay. This one, shift of machine in depreciation, is it considered? Yes, won't do. You have to explain the entire provision. Okay, I'll tell you the question. While calculating depreciation, is the number of shifts considered? Supposing if you're running it on 2 shifts, or supposing if you're running the machine on 3 shifts, will you be considering that? Yes, shift of machine. Shift means that you are understanding, no, what I mean by shift, that you are running it on in morning shift, afternoon shift, and evening shift. So normal operation. Okay, got it. Yeah.
Sir, while calculating estimated useful life, we'll be considering the shifts. That way, depreciation will become inflated.
Right. So Harsh has given the correct answer. As per Schedule 2, they have given very clear, guidance on this, that supposing you are running a machine on double shift, you use 1.5 times the regular depreciation. Supposing you are running it on triple shift, you use 2 times the regular depreciation. This is just a rule of thumb which is given and which is followed by everyone, because Companies Act में दिया हुआ है, तो India क्या बोलता है, that is, that is, of course, that is also important. But यहाँ पे very simple logic is given. Double shift, 1.5 times of regular depreciation. Triple shift, 2 times of regular depreciation. So that will be your answer to this question. Your useful life estimate will generally be made only on the normal shift that is being done. Okay, here are some questions which you need to know the answer of. Important heads of state, Russia, Ukraine, US, UK, all these, China, whatever is important, you'll have to know. What is DCF method? What are valuation method? How will you value inventory? We covered inventory in detail. This question I'll just cover quickly. This question is, supposing if I have an investment of 100 crore and I'm getting a net present value of 10 lakh on this investment, should I go ahead with this investment or should I not?
Sir, you should go with the investment because irrespective of what the NPV amount is, the main thing is that NPV is positive, because while calculating NPV, we are already considering a certain percentage of return that we want from the project.
Right. So generally, you've given the correct answer, that you already you have considered the expected return. Usually there's a twist question also which is coming here, which is that, look, supposing I'm having an investment of 100 crores and my interest that is coming from the bank, I can get an interest of 6%, and there's a project which is giving me an NPV of 2% or 3%. In that case, should I go with the bank FD which is giving me 6% return, or should I go with this project which is giving me a 2% net present value? Right. So in this case, you will have to say that always the 2% net present value project should be preferred, because this 2% is beyond your cost of capital. So I've already recovered my cost of capital, or whatever my hurdle rate is. It could be, say, 10%, 14%, whatever the amount is. I've recovered that amount, and whatever positive NPV I'm getting, let's say this 10 lakh NPV, this I'm getting beyond the required rate of return. So I should go for the project. Okay. Now DCF method, nothing as such to you would be knowing it. Theory question hai. Valuation methods, earning method is there, relative valuation is there, and absolute. One is the direct, this intrinsic valuation and relative valuation. So intrinsic valuation, you'll have to use things like DCF and do the fundamental value calculation. Relative valuation means you are just using some P ratios कि अच्छा इंडस्ट्री का पीई है 15, this particular industry has a PE of 15, so I'll take the profit of this company and I'll multiply it by 15 and I'll get the valuation. So that is a relative valuation where you're using other companies. Intrinsic valuation is, let's say, where you're using DCF. Economic value added is economic value added. Actually, you should not be using it for valuation as such, because economic value added, I think it has a lot of these other components also, which are not accruing to you as an investor in that company, right? So because you want to know that if you are investing in that company, if you're buying that company, whether you're buying a share or whether you're buying that company as it is, as a whole, whether you want to, what is the value you want to give. So economic value added also, that there's a method which you can use, but so that method is also there. Types of inventory, NRV. Okay. So types of inventory. Now you need to tell me what is the net realizable value in case of raw material. How do you value inventory for Ind AS 2? Very simple, NRV or cost, whichever is lower, and then all the other things which we discussed earlier. Okay, now what is the NRV in case of raw material? What is the NRV in case of semi-finished? What is the NRV in case of finished? Anyone can just try to answer it. Question is clear?
Sir, for next inventory, the NRV will be the realizable or market value.
For which one?
For finished one.
Finished one. Okay.
And for WIP.
So you didn't give the complete answer.
So if NRV of finished goods is less, finished goods NRV.
Yes, Megha, go ahead.
So NRV of finished goods is less than the finished goods cost. Means NRV of finished goods is less than its cost. Then we'll take replacement cost as the instead of cost of the raw material. We'll take replacement cost of means as the cost of the raw material.
You're confusing the things.
And if
your replacement cost is not used for finished goods.
For raw material cost, we'll use replacement cost.
Yes. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So already someone was giving the answer. For finished goods, the NRV is your estimated selling price minus your selling cost. So both of them have given Dheeraj and Yanni Bhanuprasad, your estimated selling price less
And
your
for-
cost to sell.
And for WIP, इसमें एक और minus कर दो, like conversion cost, additional
Conversion cost, right? Absolutely, right. So for WIP, you'll have to just deduct your conversion cost also. For raw material, it is your replacement cost, estimated cost to completion. You can use it, right? Estimated cost to complete. For raw material, what is it? For semi-finished, you have covered. For your FG, we have covered.
For raw material, will be almost cost will be that our value, whatever the cost of raw material is. And if
You are comparing cost and NRV, so you can't take the cost because cost you have to compare it with something.
Sir, we will consider a replacement cost in case of
Replacement
मतलब,
cost, right.
raw material. If that
Okay. Okay. What are the cost principles? So FIFO, weighted average. Why?
So
is-
sir, so what is the NRV for raw materials replacement cost?
Yes.
So it will
Okay.
depend upon the NRV of means we have to compare the raw material cost with the finished goods. Now it is somehow related with the finished goods. Now if like
Yes.
if
Yes.
NRV of finished goods.
Okay.
Because of
So
valuation of raw
very
materials,
good point. I'll
not
give you
for
that
determining.
question. 1 minute. 1 minute. Okay, we have too many questions. आज तो नहीं हो पाएगा.
सर कल भी रख दो थोड़ा.
हाँ सर, तो अगर कल रखना है तो अभी
आई
अभी
थिंक बेटर
अभी
रहेगा
कर
है ना,
सकते हैं।
बिकॉज आई
सर
विल नॉट
बहुत
बी एबल टू,
chaotic हो
मुझे लग
जाएगा।
रहा है अब है ना, आई विल नॉट है ना, थोड़ा वो हो जाएगा. सो
हैवी वाला।
व्हाट विल डू इज, एक मिनट इसका, आई थिंक विल स्टॉप एट दिस पॉइंट है ना, यहाँ तक का कहाँ तक कर लिया,
ऊपर सर, ऊपर ऊपर
वेयर वाज इट,
और ऊपर से।
ओके
हाँ
हियर
यहाँ
ना.
पे।
Okay, now some quick administrative questions. सबको WhatsApp ग्रुप का लिंक मिला हुआ है because you joined there. I know WhatsApp ग्रुप उतना यूज नहीं हो रहा है, रजिस्टर्ड वाला जो ग्रुप है, राइट?
उसमें शायद इनवाइट गया है, मतलब एक्सेप्ट नहीं हुआ मतलब।
है ना, because I think वो previous emails I had not mentioned that link, but this time I mentioned that link very clearly. So वो join कर लेना because है ना, coordination में थोड़ा easy रहता है. ठीक है, तो that is covered. And see, मतलब I am going to assume unless you tell me otherwise कि आप question bank access कर पा रहे हो, है ना, you are able to access the question bank and things like any navigation issues है ना, कुछ भी ऐसा रहेगा, please tell me. I also want कि वो product improve होए in terms of the quality of the questions, in terms of quality of answers. कुछ वहां पे आपको लगा कि अरे मेरे को ना इंटरव्यू में ये क्वेश्चन पूछे, ये तो क्वेश्चन बैंक में कवर्ड ही नहीं था, राइट? सो ऑल दीज थिंग्स इफ यू टेल मी, आई विल बी एबल टू इम्प्लीमेंट इट, उसको बेटर कर सकते हैं. मे बी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में थोड़ा टाइम लग सकता है, बट थिंग्स लाइक आई एम नॉट एबल टू study the questions properly, I am not able to view it properly, मुझे सर्च में थोड़ा इशू आ रहा है, जो भी इशू आ रहा है, whether in the question bank, whether in accessing any of the other material which is there, कोई रिकॉर्डिंग का इशू हो रहा है, all those you keep telling me, है ना, कुछ भी. एंड सपोजिंग इफ यू सेंड अ मैसेज ऑन व्हाट्सएप, कभी कभी मिस हो जाता है, राइट? सो इन दैट केस व्हाट यू नीड टू डू इज यू नीड टू रिमाइंड मी कि मैंने मैसेज भेजा है, उसका रिप्लाई आप प्लीज करो, या है ना, यू गिव अ रिप्लाई फॉर दिस मैसेज, सो दैट आई रिमेम्बर कि अच्छा वो हुआ है. यूजुअली आई मार्क इट एज 100 अगर रिप्लाई नहीं होता है, बट यू नो मिस हो जाता है. तो है ना, सेम विद दैट सपोर्ट ईमेल, यू व्हाट्सएप मी. व्हाट्सएप इज द क्विकेस्ट वे. कुछ भी आपको अगर यू नो इफ यू नीड एनी काइंड ऑफ हेल्प, व्हाट्सएप विल बी द
अपना नंबर
क्विकेस्ट.
बता दीजिए।
नंबर नहीं है क्या तुम लोग के पास? अच्छा, आई जस्ट पुट इट.
मेरे पास।
So it is 8697222644. No, and you can better you WhatsApp whatever thing is there. If it is possible for either on weekends or post office hours. So what we'll do is, ठीक है, I know है ना, I know जैसे आज तो holiday था सबका, Independence Day, I know थोड़ा you know it was more on only problem is 18th को interview start हो रहे हैं. So what can we do? We'll, I think 18th is the interview, right? 18th को है, आज 15th हो गया है. We'll do it after office hours only. We'll do it from 8 to 10. I think 8 to 10 में किसी को कोई issue नहीं होएगा, right?
Yes, sir, fine.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
8 to 10 is fine.
8 to 10 is fine, right? ठीक है, ठीक है. Right? So
Sir, in
we'll
case
do it
कोई
tomorrow.
अटेंड नहीं कर पाएगा तो कल का सेशन का रिकॉर्डिंग दे पाओगे कैसे?
Recording भी मिल जाएगा, right? है ना? ठीक है then, है ना? So we'll just close this session now and we'll join back tomorrow. ठीक है.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.